Upon returning to life, I deliberately arrived late to delay getting married to Gu Wenlin. In my previous life, after learning of my pregnancy, Gu Wenlin disappeared with Bai Xiaomei for 20 years. Later, as I was on the brink of death, he returned, gazing at Bai Xiaomei's portrait. He told me, if only we had delayed getting married for a little while, would the outcome have been different. Realizing I had been reborn, Gu Wenlin was standing at the dormitory door, waiting for me to go get our marriage certificate together. I lied that I needed to deliver something to a colleague, sending Gu to the marriage registration office ahead of me. After parting ways with Gu Wenlin, I went up the mountain, lying in Aunt Wang's rocking chair, gazing at the sea of clouds in front of the house, basking in the sun. Auntie Wang handed me a roasted sweet potato and asked curiously, "Aren't you supposed to be getting your marriage certificate with Engineer Gu today? Why are you here?" I took a bite of the warm roasted sweet potato. I smiled and told her, "Auntie, I had a nightmare. Waking up, I couldn't shake the unease." Auntie Wang comforted me. "It's just a dream. What matters is the life you're living. After you marry Engineer Gu, you'll have plenty of good days ahead. What's there to fear from a nightmare?" I was momentarily stunned, then nodded with a smile. Auntie is right. I'll stay for a while and then leave. Marry Gu Wenlin. Not in this lifetime. In my previous life, after getting our marriage certificate with Gu Wenlin, we had just stepped out of the marriage registration office. He bumped into a girl head-on. The girl was named Bai Xiaomei, living in the village where we worked. On our way back, Gu Wenlin remained silent the entire time. I assumed he'd become more cautious around female colleagues now that he was a married man. Little did I know, I wouldn't discover the truth until I was at death's door. That accidental bump led Gu Wenlin to fall head over heels for Bai Xiaomei at first sight. He wasn't avoiding suspicion, he was regretting why he couldn't have delayed our marriage registration by just one day. After that day, Gu Wenlin became much colder toward me. He would often sit alone, staring in the direction of the village. I asked him why, but he avoided answering. After asking too many times and being busy with work, I stopped asking. I'll wait until he figures it out and is ready to talk to me. After the village project was completed, Wenlin Gu and I were assigned to different project teams. We had to live apart. I thought it would only be temporary, but with each subsequent assignment, he was sent far and wide. I mentioned it to Gu Wenlin, and he just said indifferently, "Obey the organization's arrangements," until one day, I returned to Beijing for a report. It was through my colleagues' conversations that I learned. Except for the first separate assignment, each time after that was the result of Gu Wenlin actively requesting from his superiors. I had a big argument with Gu Wenlin. Afterwards, he held me and apologized, but never explained the reason. After daybreak, Gu Wenlin left. I think my marriage is over. The unexpected always comes suddenly. I'm pregnant. After learning about my pregnancy, Gu Wenlin changed his previous indifference. He began to take thoughtful care of my life. He'd clumsily try his hand at cooking for me, would press his ear against my belly to hear baby's bubbles, walked with me every evening without fail. Then one day, Gu Wenlin vanished without a trace. I asked many people and searched for him for a long time. No one knows where he went. No one could tell me whether he was dead or alive. I started going to prenatal checkups alone, giving birth alone, taking my child to the hospital alone, and raising my child alone. A person handled the funerals of both sets of parents. I thought he was dead, but just as I was on my last breath, he suddenly appeared before me. It was only then that I realized he had been with Bai Xiaomei for the past 20 years. They adopted a son and gave him all their love. Bai Xiaomei, however, was consumed by her inner turmoil and passed away before him. Her only regret before leaving was that she never became his wife in her lifetime. Gu Wenlin said he felt sorry for me but also resented me. This makes absolutely no sense to me. If you didn't love me, why didn't you tell me sooner? He could have just divorced me and built a home with Bai Xiaomei, instead of abandoning his wife and child, neglecting his parents. What right does he have to resent me? The son I raised with my own hands said he envied the foster child of Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei, who was raised with love. He resents me for bringing him into this world without his permission. It was only then that I realized he had already been in contact with his father behind my back, without my knowledge. I spent an hour at Aunt Wang's house. After bidding farewell to Aunt Wang, I headed straight to the marriage registration office. When I arrived at the marriage registration office, I happened to see Gu Wenlin helping Bai Xiaomei up. I saw Gu Wenlin staring at Bai Xiaomei, unable to tear his eyes away. A face that was originally slightly annoyed now showed astonishment. In my previous life, I was busy helping Bai Xiaomei up and engaging in conversation with her. I didn't notice Gu Wenlin's unusual behavior. Now, looking at it from the perspective of a bystander, It was all so obvious. Wenlin, I'm here. Did you get impatient waiting? Upon seeing me, Gu Wenlin stiffened and quickly became flustered. Man, you're here. I noticed Bai Xiaomei looking at me, her expression complex. Her eyes filled with jealousy and hatred, unlike in my previous life. When I looked back, she had returned to normal, as if it had all been my imagination. I'm curious, as we haven't gotten our marriage certificate yet in this lifetime. Gu Wenlin encountered Bai Xiaomei earlier than expected. What choice will he make? Break up with me for Bai Xiaomei, or repeat his past life, marry me on paper while actually living with Bai Xiaomei? It's getting late, let's go get our marriage certificate. I feigned urgency. Gu Wenlin's face turned pale. Ouch, my foot hurts. Bai Xiaomei's timely cry broke the momentary silence. In her previous life, Bai Xiaomei wasn't injured. Why did she get injured this time, and at such a perfect moment? Could she have been reborn too? I studied Bai Xiaomei with scrutinizing eyes, yet found nothing unusual. Gu Wenlin took Bai Xiaomei to the clinic. The doctor said there was nothing serious, just a wound that would heal soon. Bai Xiaomei blushed with embarrassment. Gu Wenlin, however, seemed delighted. On the way back, they passed by the marriage registration office. Gu Wenlin's face showed conflicted emotions. Manon, they've already left for the day. Should we come back tomorrow? I said calmly. Let's see. Even getting a marriage certificate requires a good day. However, there will never be a suitable day for getting a marriage certificate in this lifetime. A smile played on my lips. Gu Wenlin sighed. Alright, I'll talk to Aunt Wang when we get back. Wenlin and I came by bicycle. On the way back, Bai Xiaomei got on Wenlin's bike without hesitation. Wenlin looked at me, a bit awkward, but didn't refuse. I pretended not to notice and rode my bike away first. A cool breeze carried the voices of Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could hear the happiness in their tone. And Gu Wenlin's deliberately restrained laughter. How long has it been since I last saw Gu Wenlin smile? In my previous life, it seemed that after meeting Bai Xiaomei, Gu Wenlin never smiled at me again, but now, these things don't matter to me anymore. As we entered the village, the villagers saw Bai Xiaomei sitting in Gu Wenlin's car, one arm wrapped around Gu Wenlin's waist. When they looked at me, they either winked at me or coughed and shook their heads. I knew what they were trying to convey. But I still smiled and returned to the dorm. Gu Wenlin had already rented a wedding house in advance for the marriage. Most of the stuff has been moved over. I passed by the wedding house, stopped and parked. The wedding house has 2 bedrooms on either side, a central hall, and a small courtyard. In my previous life, after returning from the marriage registry, I saw the big red happy characters on the walls and felt a sweet joy. No one knew, but the day before the wedding, the groom was happily busy decorating the bridal chamber, yet the wedding night fizzled out. That night, just like countless lonely nights to come, we lay quietly in bed, doing nothing, yet unable to fall asleep. Before Gu Wenlin returned, I wheeled my bike back to the dorm. As soon as I got to the dorm, I took out the transfer letter to Beijing from the drawer. It was called a transfer, but what awaited me back home was a promotion and a raise. In my previous life, I gave up this opportunity because I was going to marry Gu Wenlin. 3 months later, we were reassigned to different locations. After that, Gu Wenlin deliberately kept putting distance between us. Later when I got pregnant, Gu Wenlin simply vanished. I had to raise our child alone while supporting both sets of parents. Struggling at work, I was gradually moved from key departments to peripheral ones. I never got a promotion or a raise my entire life. My elementary school-aged son always looks disdainful whenever he sees me being mediocre and busy. He said, "Other moms are so pretty, why can't you dress up like them?" What Bai Xiaomei? The more I recall, the more shocked I become. It turns out that back then, my son was already in contact with his missing father. He kept it from me all his life. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. At dinner time, Gu Wenlin didn't come looking for me as usual. I grabbed my lunchbox and headed to the cafeteria alone. In the cafeteria, I saw Gu Wenlin sitting across from Bai Xiaomei. They kept serving each other dishes. Bai Xiaomei covered her mouth and laughed, not knowing what Gu Wenlin had said. When Gu Wenlin saw me, he was momentarily stunned and quickly stood up. Man, you're here. Xiaomei just got home, and there's nothing to eat there, so I brought her here to grab something. I was planning to bring you some later, but I didn't expect you to come so early. Is it too early? There aren't many people left in the cafeteria. There are even fewer dishes left. I can't help but think of my past life. After we got our certificates, Gu Wenlin suggested going to the cafeteria for food, but I waited until very late before he returned. When he came back, his hands were empty. He just casually told me, The food at the cafeteria is gone, just bear it for one night. That night, if there was any sound, it must have been the rumbling of my hungry stomach. It turns out that at this time in his previous life, Gu Wenlin had already started taking care of Bai Xiaomei. I didn't say anything and walked past him. I scraped up the remaining dishes and packed them back to the dorm. Just as I was halfway through my meal, there was a knock at the dorm door. It was Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei. Gu Wenlin looked at me with mixed emotions. Clearing his throat softly, Man, I need to discuss something with you. I stared at him in silence. Gu Wenlin glanced at Bai Xiaomei, who was standing beside him, being very cautious. His eyes were full of tenderness, and when he spoke again, his tone was more resolute. Man, you know, Xiaomei just came back from the city. As you know, she's the only one in her family, and her house hasn't been lived in for a long time, so it needs cleaning. You see, we haven't gotten our marriage certificate yet. I was thinking, maybe we could let Xiaomei stay in our wedding house for a few days. I glanced at Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei flinched like a startled rabbit, shrinking behind Gu Wenlin. Through past and present lives, I see two completely different Bai Xiaomei's. I wouldn't believe it if you said Bai Xiaomei hadn't been reborn. I don't have time to play along with her. I don't want this man anymore, no matter what Bai Xiaomei does. It's all unnecessary in my eyes. Fine, it's your house, you decide. Gu Wenlin didn't expect me to agree so readily. His prepared speech suddenly got stuck in his throat, neither coming out nor going down. However, I don't like others touching my things. I'll go and collect my belongings later. Gu Wenlin was taken aback and quickly said, No need. I'll move your things to another room. It turns out he not only wanted Bai Xiaomei to move into our wedding room, I even wanted her to sleep in our marital bed. How ridiculous. I noticed Bai Xiaomei also smirked. After dinner, I took a flashlight to the bridal chamber to tidy up. When I arrived, Gu Wenlin was busy helping Bai Xiaomei make the bed. It was still the new bedsheet I had carefully chosen for the wedding night. Gu Wenlin looked a bit surprised to see me. Man, why are you here? I've already put your things in my room. Oh, I responded and turned to fetch something from the next room. Gu Wenlin followed. His expression complicated, his eyes filled with emotions I couldn't decipher. Man. Bai Xiaomei ran out of the room. Brother Wenlin, is that sheet for you and Sister Man's wedding? Is it okay for me to use it? I don't mind. I can sleep on dirty clothes. Bai Xiaomei's voice trailed off. I noticed a look of pity in Gu Wenlin's eyes as he looked at her. He looked at me. Man, look, all the sheets at home are new. This one. How could I have missed the fleeting satisfaction in Bai Xiaomei's eyes? She doesn't know that I've already decided not to put up with a scumbag like Gu Wenlin ever since I was reborn. I said indifferently, this bedsheet was bought with your money, so you decide. Thank you, Sister Man and Brother Wenlin, you're too kind to me. Wow, I never thought I'd one day get to live in Brother Wenlin's wedding house and sleep on his wedding bed. Something about this just doesn't sit right. And Gu Wenlin seems to feel it too. But he looked at me without speaking, as if testing my limits. Bai Xiaomei finished speaking as if realizing something, covering her mouth and pretending to look guilty. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sister Man. I didn't mean to. Please don't misunderstand. I have nothing going on with Brother Wenlin. I think I'll just sleep with the dirty clothes. With that, she reached for the dirty clothes in the package. Gu Wenlin quickly stopped her. I reassured Bai Xiaomei, it's okay, just go to sleep. It's not a big deal for me. Gu Wenlin couldn't read anything from my face and stood to the side, deep in thought. I was busy packing and didn't have time to pay attention to him. Bai Xiaomei was deliberately trying to cover up her intentions, but only made things worse. She just wanted to provoke me, so she could appear weak and vulnerable in front of Gu Wenlin, to make Gu Wenlin despise me. But as someone who has lived another life, how could I care? The only thing she should be grateful for is that she didn't parade herself before me in her past life. Seems she hasn't made enough of a spectacle in this lifetime. I leaned close to Bai Xiaomei and whispered, Little Mei, you're overthinking it. Why would I mind? Your Wenlin brother only has your best interests at heart. That's perfectly understandable. I wouldn't object even if he married you, though whether he actually would is another matter. I turned my gaze to Bai Xiaomei and gave her a playful wink. Bai Xiaomei's face turned very pale upon hearing this. She couldn't understand why I was so different from the easily manipulated Haoman of her past life. But soon she realized something and looked at me with a smug expression. I packed up my things, carrying the bundle, ready to leave. Gu Wenlin suddenly called out to me from behind. He took a step forward, wanting to take the bundle off my back. I refused. Funny, Bai Xiaomei has been reborn. In her previous life, she was a mistress all her life. In this life, I'm here to be promoted. She treats Gu Wenlin's trash as her private property, and I don't want to get involved in any mess. Gu Wenlin saw my evasive action, and his eyes were filled with hurt when he looked at me. Manon, are you angry? I can explain. Strange, someone who would rather waste my entire life in the past without saying a word, this lifetime. They finally speak up, but I already knew what he was going to say. Just using care as an excuse while emotionally drifting away. Explanations. Spare me the trouble. Besides, Bai Xiaomei wouldn't agree either. Ah, just as I thought. Hearing Bai Xiaomei scream, Gu Wenlin immediately abandoned seeing me off and rushed back into the house. I scoffed, adjusted the pack on my back, and walked away. In my past life, I was married to Gu Wenlin for 21 years before my life ended at 45. That's considered dying young. When I gave birth to that ungrateful wretch, I suffered severe hemorrhaging during childbirth. That's when my health was permanently damaged. Before fully recovering, she had to single-handedly care for her son. On top of that, she dealt with Gu Wenlin's unreasonable, demanding parents, all while holding down a job and searching everywhere for Gu Wenlin. Her health deteriorated with each passing day. Raising my son to adulthood was the absolute limit of what I could achieve through relentless effort. I haven't had a decent night's sleep since Gu Wenlin's disappearance. In this second chance at life, I never married Gu Wenlin. No more burning the candle at both ends. The body is in good health. I can finally get a proper night's sleep. Slept soundly without dreams for the first time in what felt like lifetimes. The next day, I requested leave from my supervisor and informed them about my decision to accept the transfer back to Beijing. The boss looked puzzled. Didn't you say you didn't want to live apart from Engineer Gu after marrying him? I shook my head. I won't marry him, right now. My career is what matters most to me. A pleased smile spread across the boss's face as they looked at me. In my past life, the boss had tried to talk sense into me too. He said, with your capabilities, you could aim much higher. I must have lost my mind to give up such a great opportunity for that jerk. I asked my boss to keep my departure under wraps. We've also settled on my last working day with the boss. I left the boss's office and headed straight for the train station. Train tickets were hard to come by during this season, requiring hours-long queues. As I cycled past our would-be marital home, through the picket fence, I saw Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei squatting together brushing their teeth in the yard. Gu Wenlin deftly took the towel from the clothesline and personally wiped Bai Xiaomei's hands. Bai Xiaomei gazed at him with tender affection. It seemed their relationship had undergone a qualitative leap overnight. Saw me cycling past the doorway. Gu Wenlin's face paled as he hastily put distance between himself and Bai Xiaomei. I averted my gaze, ignoring both his guilty conscience and her wounded expression. Following my memory, I arrived at the train station. After paying to park my bicycle, I followed the crowd into the ticket hall. Travelers during this period were all laden with bundles and packages of every size. From sewing needles to quilts and baskets, people hauled everything they could onto the trains. Watching the swarming crowds, I ultimately decided to travel as light as possible, especially bulky items. We sold what we could and gave away the rest. After waiting in line forever, I still opted for the sleeper ticket over the standing one. I've suffered enough in my past life. This time I'm treating myself right. By the time I left the train station, it was already afternoon, a lifetime later. Still clueless, forgot to bring snacks for the queue. I skipped lunch to buy train tickets, and now I'm starving to death. After asking around, I found the state-run restaurant where Gu Wenlin and I had been in our previous lives. Back then, we had our blind date here arranged by co-workers. Gu Wenlin was quite handsome with fair skin, just my type of clean-cut guy. He's also in the same technical field as me. Plus, both our families are based in Beijing. Back then, I thought it'd be convenient for our families to visit each other, and he was quite pleased with my appearance too. We decided to give it a shot. During our relationship, he wasn't exactly Prince Charming, but he treated me decently enough. In daily life, he looked after me in every way. When work challenges arose, he'd always tackle them alongside me. There wasn't much heart-fluttering romance between us, just comfortable compatibility. I thought we'd spend our lives together in quiet contentment. Then out of nowhere, he dropped a bombshell on me. Gu Wenlin proposed to me after we'd been together for 2 months. Back then, I could see genuine happiness in his eyes when he decided to marry me. But childhood sweethearts are no match for fate's surprises. The moment Bai Xiaomei appeared, he rediscovered that flutter in his heart. His heart wandered astray. Love knows not its origin, yet flows ever deeper. But he crossed every line imaginable. He shouldn't have abandoned everything for love, selfishly wasting my life away. After parking my bike, I walked into the state-run diner. The place wasn't crowded at this hour. That's how I immediately spotted Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei sitting in the corner. Bai Xiaomei noticed me first. She stood up and waved at me enthusiastically. Sister Man, are you heading for lunch? Perfect timing. Brother Wenlin and I were just going together. Why don't you join us? Don't stand on ceremony. It's just an extra pair of chopsticks. Truly the master-level green tea bitch who stole someone else's husband for over 2 decades. Just 2 sentences and she's already positioned herself as the hostess. Oh, I'd hate to intrude on your date, I said with an amused glance at Gu Wenlin. Gu Wenlin visibly panicked. He hastily stood up to pull out a chair for me. Ah, Sister Man, don't get the wrong idea. My relationship with Brother Wenlin isn't what you think. He just thinks I'm too thin and wants to help me gain some weight. Damn, she's showing off again. Ignoring Gu Wenlin's gesture, I walked over and sat down beside Bai Xiaomei. Gu Wenlin rubbed his nose awkwardly before taking his seat. The sight of this lavish feast completely stunned me. Damn, this meal must have cost Gu Wenlin half a month's salary. He's being awfully generous with Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei served me a piece of braised pork. Sister Man, try their braised pork. Brother Wenlin says it's the best here and insisted on ordering it for me. He even promised to get me another portion to take home. Here, try this. And the fish, you've got to taste the fish too. I've never had fish this delicious before. Brother Wenlin says he can cook it too. And promised to make it for me often after we get back. Gu Wenlin knows how to cook. Back when I was pregnant in my past life, he was such a mess in the kitchen, constantly dropping pots and smashing bowls. In the end, I had to shove him out of the kitchen and cook myself. Turns out love can be faked. I took the braised pork and savored it. Absolutely delicious. Things these days are the real deal. This pork is incredibly flavorful. This river fish is incredibly fresh and tender. Not a trace of that metallic aftertaste. I was savoring every bite, completely tuning out whatever Bai Xiaomei was saying. Ah, Bai Xiaomei suddenly shrieked, startling me so badly I nearly dropped my chopsticks. Sorry Man, I just got scared by a fishbone. Where was I? Oh right, Sister Man, have you ever tasted Brother Wenlin's cooking? If not, you should come over tonight. He promised to cook for me. Isn't that right, Brother Wenlin? Ha, scared by a fishbone, that really got me. Bai Xiaomei clearly couldn't stand seeing me so nonchalant about it. She deliberately pretended to be scared by the fishbone to warn me. Keep showing off, why don't you? Let's see who you'll flaunt to after I'm gone. You're so lucky, Xiaomei. I've known Wenlin for ages and never knew he could cook, yet after just 2 days, he's making you dinner. Guess I'm benefiting from your good fortune tonight. All this was meant to drive me crazy with jealousy. Didn't expect that. Well, I couldn't care less. Bai Xiaomei froze in shock. Gu Wenlin's face kept shifting between pale and livid. I kept eating, completely unfazed by their reactions. When my scallion tofu salad was served, I slid it toward Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin, inviting them to share. The dinner table grew noticeably quieter afterward. At last, I could eat my meal in peace. Stepping out of the state-run restaurant, I bid farewell to Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin before cycling away. I'm going to the post office to call my parents. In my past life after Gu Wenlin disappeared, I single-handedly raised our child while caring for his parents and holding down a job. Every day was a whirlwind of non-stop busyness. For some reason, despite coming from a family just as respectable as theirs, Gu's parents never approved of me. Not only did they refuse to help with childcare, but they went out of their way to make my life miserable. The moment I showed them the slightest cold shoulder, they'd come make scenes at my workplace. Back then, landing a stable job was hard enough, let alone raising a son single-handedly, so I bit the bullet and endured it. When my parents heard about my situation, they helped me out a lot while still taking care of their grandchildren. They were thinking about finding someone else to marry me off to, but when Mr. and Mrs. Gu found out, they caused a huge scene in front of my parents, accusing our family of trying to drive them to their graves. What's worse, every time a gentleman showed interest in meeting me, Mother Gu would follow behind with my son in tow. Then she'd make the boy run up to me crying and making a scene. Gradually, no one wanted to be introduced to me anymore, so I gave up any thought of remarrying and devoted myself wholeheartedly to raising my son. During this time, my parents endured no small amount of hardship because of Gu's parents, but what weighed on them most was their concern for me. Even when they passed away, I remained their deepest worry. The call connected instantly. Hearing my parents' voices after what felt like lifetimes, I broke down in tears. They caught the tremor in my voice. My parents grew deeply concerned. They thought Gu Wenlin was bullying me. They were furious and wanted to confront Gu Wenlin. I calmed them down and explained everything that had happened recently, including my decision, to my parents. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. In the end, they simply said they'd respect my decision if it was well considered. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. I told them about my transfer back to Beijing. My train ticket was booked for 3 days later. Mom and Dad said they'd prepare all my favorite dishes and wait for me at home. Back at the dorm, I opened the door. There sat Gu Wenlin at my desk, flipping through study materials. Almost forgot, he's got a spare key to my dorm room too, seeing the drawer containing my transfer report locked. I breathed a sigh of relief. With my relationship with Gu Wenlin still undefined, I didn't want any last-minute complications before leaving. Gu Wenlin hurriedly stood up to pour me water when he saw me return. He clearly had something to say, but kept hesitating without speaking up. I sat on the bed, sipping tea slowly while waiting for him to speak. Finally, he couldn't hold back anymore. Turning to face me, he said, Man, it's not what you think between Xiaomei and me," swallowing my tea. I replied coolly, "And what exactly do I think?" Gu Wenlin choked on his words. If I were still whole man from my past life, I'd believe him unconditionally, explanations or not. But I've lived a full lifetime, witnessed and endured my own tragic existence. 1,000 explanations from Gu Wenlin wouldn't mean shit to me now. He said those words by my deathbed in my past life. It was love at first sight with Bai Xiaomei, true love. What we had couldn't compare. I was more like the third wheel in their relationship, a flaw, a thorn in the flesh. Man, believe it or not, I just thought since Bai Xiaomei lost both parents, it's hard for her being all alone. That's why I wanted to look after her more. Gu Wenlin's eyes darted nervously as he explained. He couldn't even meet my gaze. How could I possibly believe him? But I said it anyway. Fine, I believe you. Could you leave now? I'm exhausted and need rest. Oh, and please leave my dorm key before you go. Gu Wenlin's face froze instantly. Clearly, he could tell I didn't trust him. After Gu Wenlin left, I wiped down the chair he'd been sitting on. Filthy, absolutely filthy. I started packing my things. After 6 months working here, I didn't have many belongings to gather, just some clothes, bedding, and daily necessities. What really needs settling are those wedding items purchased with Gu Wenlin. Looks like I'll need to settle accounts with Gu Wenlin before leaving. Just then, a knock came at the door. It's Gu Wenlin. He was holding a pastry box in his hands, cheerfully extended it toward me. Here, man, open it and see. I took the pastry box and opened it. Inside were cash and vouchers. Gu Wenlin smiled and said, I've been ready for this. After we marry, you'll manage all my money. Just give me my monthly allowance on time. Staring at Gu Wenlin before me, I suddenly felt like I was looking at a stranger. In my past life, forget about handing over his salary. After getting married, I never saw a single penny from him. When I hemorrhaged during childbirth, his parents didn't contribute a dime and even said, let her die, she's just wasting money alive. It was my parents and siblings who paid the doctors to save my life. Later, I ended up covering all his parents' medical bills and funeral expenses. During those 20 years of Gu Wenlin's disappearance, he secretly kept in touch with his son. He must have contacted his parents too. Whether he gave them money or not, I wouldn't know. All I know is that before Mrs. Gu passed away, she called my son in. When my son reappeared, though he tried hard to look sorrowful, I still caught a glimmer of secret delight in his eyes. After the funeral, I searched her room but found nothing of value. Later I fell ill, but with no money for treatment, I could only endure it. That endurance dragged on until my final fleeting rally. It occurred to me that Gu Wenlin probably knew I needed money for medical treatment in my past life. The thought that my son might be hoarding money from his grandmother while refusing to pay for my treatment, a dull ache settled in my chest. Gu Wenlin noticed me suddenly trembling all over, rushed forward to help me up. I shoved them away abruptly, leaning against the wall. It took me quite a while to recover. When my gaze returned to Gu Wenlin, only cold indifference remained in my eyes. Gu Wenlin's heart skipped a beat. I stared at the money inside the metal box. Since Gu Wenlin had brought the money, there's no way I'd let myself get shortchanged. Past debts can never be settled, but this lifetime's accounts must be cleared. I took half of our wedding expenses from the box, then handed the remaining money and the box to Gu Wenlin. Gu Wenlin noticed my behavior but remained silent despite his confusion. Even the most oblivious person could sense the drastic change in me. He couldn't comprehend what had transpired in those brief minutes. A creeping sense of things spiraling out of control took hold. After confirming I was unharmed, he left reluctantly with lingering glances. I had a restless night's sleep, the past life I witnessed. Gu Wenlin's parents told him about my life-threatening hemorrhage during childbirth. Gu Wenlin merely gave a non-committal hum over the phone. I later discovered that when our son was still an infant, Gu's parents had secretly taken him to see Gu Wenlin behind my back. Gu Wenlin knew I'd been searching for him all along, yet he conspired with everyone to keep me in the dark. No wonder everyone who knew him clammed up whenever I asked about him. I even dreamed about colleagues I'd worked with for years in my past life. They waxed poetic about Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei's love story. As for me, his wife, I'm just what they call a mismatched red thread, tied by a drunken matchmaker. How utterly ridiculous. I woke from the dream to find my pillow soaked with tears, but I'm still here, alive and well. Life still holds possibilities, doesn't it? The next 2 days were spent handing over my work responsibilities. Bai Xiaomei and I made plans to try Gu Wenlin's home cooking. The money box incident that night was quietly swept under the rug. I thought that was the end of it, but Bai Xiaomei showed up that evening. She invited me over for dinner. I couldn't refuse their warm hospitality, so I accepted. When dinner time came, I arrived bearing gifts. Peering through the picket fence, I saw Bai Xiaomei locked in an embrace with Gu Wenlin. Gu Wenlin's hands were kneading Bai Xiaomei's most delicate curves. His face turned deathly pale when he saw me. Bai Xiaomei looked equally terrified, frantically buttoning up her nearly undone blouse. Without a word, I turned and walked away. I've already enjoyed Bai Xiaomei's dinner invitation tonight, so there's no need for gifts. Not long after I left, Gu Wenlin came running after me. He grabbed my arm, desperately trying to explain. Man, please let me explain. What you saw between Xiaomei and me wasn't what it seemed. Which one? The two of you embracing half-dressed, or your hands wandering where they shouldn't. These past couple days, though busy with work handovers, I've heard plenty from Aunt Wang's gossip. Aunt Wang absolutely despises homewreckers, especially someone like Bai Xiaomei, not just knowingly being the other woman, but repeatedly flaunting it before the wronged wife. She's always broadcasting Wenlin Gu and Xiaomei Bai's disgusting affairs in real time, she said. Villagers saw Xiaomei Bai deliberately rubbing herself against Wenlin Gu, who didn't pull away. People witnessed Xiaomei Bai and Wenlin Gu sharing a single bowl of food. Someone saw Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin holding hands in a secluded spot. The Gu Wenlin standing before me now looked rather disheveled. I couldn't comprehend why he'd done so much with Bai Xiaomei, yet he still came running to me, begging me not to misunderstand. Do you expect me to stay home taking care of his parents like last time? While he's out there whispering sweet nothings to Bai Xiaomei, before Bai Xiaomei showed up, I was the only one who could get close to you. She'd barely been here an hour when you carried her to the hospital. You let her wrap her arms around your waist on your bike after knowing her for barely 3 hours. After just 5 hours of acquaintance, you ditched me to take her to the cafeteria. 7 hours after meeting her, you're letting her stay in our bridal suite. Sleep in our marital bed, using the linens I prepared for our wedding. After knowing her for merely a day, you'd blow half a month's salary treating her to fancy dinners. After knowing her for barely a day, you're already cooking meals for her with your own hands. You don't shy away from her touch, sharing meals from the same bowl, holding hands intimately. Now you're embracing him, caressing her. How can you stand there and swear to me with a straight face that nothing happened between you? Do you really expect me to believe that? My increasingly shocking words made Gu Wenlin's body tremble uncontrollably. His lips quivered, yet no words escaped them. Let me guess why you're so terrified of my misunderstanding. Why you're desperate to explain, even resorting to throwing money at me to make me believe you. On the very day we were supposed to get our marriage license, you fell head over heels for Bai Xiaomei. The feeling was mutual. That's why she faked an injury to stop us from registering. Back then, you'd developed feelings for Bai Xiaomei, so you weren't really willing to go through with registering our marriage. But these past few days, you've probably come to realize, you're in love with Bai Xiaomei and want to share romantic moments with her. Locking eyes with Gu Wenlin, I enunciated each word. Yet at the same time, you need a dutiful wife to care for your parents. Even better if this model wife can shoulder your filial duties till their final days. Am I right? At my last words, Gu Wenlin's head snapped up with disbelief flashing in his eyes. Seeing his shocked expression actually broke my heart. What pains me is wasting a lifetime on such a scheming person. It hurts to realize those fleeting moments of marital sweetness I imagined were just a cruel joke. I can't lie to myself anymore. Likewise, I won't allow Gu Wenlin to keep deceiving me. That evening, I returned to the dormitory to pack my things for leaving. Bai Xiaomei appeared at this moment. She glared at me with a fierce expression. Oh man, you're back too, aren't you? Seeing my calm expression, she let out a soft chuckle. When she looked at me again, her eyes were full of disdain and mockery. What good did it do you to occupy Brother Wenlin's wife's position in your previous life? In the end, you were just a lifelong servant to his parents, the son you raised with so much effort, yet he called me mom behind your back. Haha, isn't that just hilarious? Your husband is mine, and so is your son, and this lifetime, even though you've been reborn too, you can't change the fact that Brother Wenlin loves me. This lifetime, Brother Wenling's wife will be me, and only me, although I was utterly disappointed in my son from my previous life. Hearing him call by Xiaomei mom behind my back still stabbed my heart. Thankfully, no matter if he allows it or not, I won't bring him into this world this lifetime. Bai Xiaomei strutted around like a victorious rooster, blabbering endlessly in front of me. When I looked at her, there was pity, sympathy, and compassion in my eyes, but no anger. She fled in panic. To me, she was just as pitiful as I was, without me covering for her and Gu Wenlin behind the scenes. Could they still live a happy life like they did in their previous life? In the dead of night, I couldn't sleep, so I stepped out of the dorm to admire the moon. I was startled by a dark figure sitting by the door. By the light spilling from the room, I recognized it was Gu Wenlin. He reeked of heavy alcohol. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. I realized that even if I were to live my life over again, I still wouldn't understand him. I grabbed a flashlight and went to find Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei was visibly startled when she heard I had come to ask her to pick up Gu Wenlin. Still, she didn't say a word and followed me back to the dorm. Gu Wenlin was asleep, and Bai Xiaomei struggled to pull her away. I didn't help. Let her deal with the man she fell for herself. The next day, as I was about to leave with my luggage, Aunt Wan came up. She dragged me to watch the drama. I followed her all the way to the bridal chamber I once shared with Gu Wenlin. I saw Gu Wenlin, furious, looking at Bai Xiaomei, who was sitting on the ground, disheveled. It turns out that last night, Bai Xiaomei took Gu Wenlin back, thinking about how Gu Wenlin chased after me, only to return in a daze, and how he fell asleep drunk in front of my dorm, even calling out my name in his dreams. She couldn't sit still any longer, taking advantage of Gu Wenlin's drunken state. She slept with him even though he mistook her for me. After hearing the villagers' account of what happened, I felt sick to my stomach. I turned around with my luggage, wanting to leave, but Gu Wenlin grabbed me. Manon, listen to me. This jerk just won't stop, will he? I took a deep breath, looking at him with absolutely no emotion in my eyes. Gulin Wenlin, I thought I made myself very clear to you yesterday. Gulin Wenlin wanted to see a trace of affection for him through my eyes, but he was disappointed. In my eyes, there was only indifference towards a stranger. Because of indifference, there is no anger. Since I'm not angry, it doesn't matter. He finally realized that I truly didn't care about him anymore. Gu Wenlin weakly let go of my hand. His voice was muffled as he quietly said behind me, I'm sorry. What am I apologizing for? This life, or the last one? I left Yuanshan village. I returned to Jingshi. Seeing my healthy and happy parents again, I broke down in tears. Every day since my rebirth, though it may seem light on the surface, there's always a heavy weight pressing on my heart. That was my entire life, a life so heavy it suffocates. How could I possibly let it go so easily? Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei deserve nothing less than 1,000 cuts, but I have my parents and my brother and sister-in-law. I can't let two rotten people ruin my fresh start in life. It's only now that I see my parents, still healthy and unburdened by me, I finally felt the relief of having the heavy burden lifted. I spent a few days with my parents, enjoying the harmony of parental kindness and filial devotion. I got back to work. Without the burden of my son and Gu's parents, my work went quite smoothly. Soon after, I got a promotion and a raise. I was also hired as a professor at a university, fulfilling my long-held dream of becoming a teacher. I heard news about Gu Wenlin again a year later. Bai Xiaomei finally realized her previous life's wish and married Gu Wenlin, becoming his rightful wife. Shortly after their marriage, Gu Wenlin took her back to the capital. Mr. and Mrs. Gu are anything but easy to deal with. Even when I had a good family background and a good job in my previous life, they still didn't like me. They looked down on Bai Xiaomei even more, who didn't have a job. So, Bai Xiaomei was subjected to relentless torment. The Gu household was in constant chaos. Gu Wenlin wanted to take Bai Xiaomei away, but Gu's parents disagreed, making a huge fuss. They believe that Bai Xiaomei, being unemployed, is marrying their son out of her league. The mere thought of Bai Xiaomei ruined my plans with their son. They are seething with hatred. They absolutely refuse to let Gu Wenlin take Bai Xiaomei away. They just want Bai Xiaomei by their side, serving them like a slave. First love can't compete with a new romance. Even moonlight and flowers can't beat the practicalities of daily life. Over time, Gu Wenlin found Bai Xiaomei to be just ordinary. Without Gu Wenlin's love, Bai Xiaomei was no different from a vulgar shrew. Not long after, Gu Wenlin applied for a transfer, and this time he didn't take Bai Xiaomei with him. Later, it was said that Bai Xiaomei fought back. She and Gu's parents tormented each other, and all of them lived miserably. Later, I heard that Gu Wenlin had an affair. In a fit of anger, Bai Xiaomei rushed to his workplace and reported Gu Wenlin. She accused Gu Wenlin of raping her while drunk in Yuanshan village. This was something I hadn't expected. Indeed, anyone willing to be a third wheel for a jerk their entire life is no ordinary person. What surprised me was Gu Wenlin. In my past life, he resented me because of Bai Xiaomei's regret. Gazing at Bai Xiaomei's portrait, he was utterly heartbroken. Seeing me leave, he was filled with remorse. In all his life, he never showed how deeply he cared for Bai Xiaomei. I overestimated him after all. A person rotten to the core, whose essence is self-love, how could they truly repent? Just the frustration of loss and unfulfilled goals. Fortunately, in this lifetime, I escaped that cage. The future of life is full of sunshine. Story 2. I am Gu Yan's wife, a top-tier surgeon, Lin Wanwan. The white moonlight he cherished above all, has leukemia, and I am the only fully matched bone marrow donor in the world. I donated my bone marrow to her, and during my weakest moment, a sudden fire broke out in the hospital. He gave her the only chance to escape, pushed me to the ground, and let me be consumed by the thick smoke. He said, "Shen Wei, you're a doctor, you know how to save yourself." He didn't know that I had been reborn with the memory of that fire. When he knelt before me again, begging me to save his beloved Lin Wanwan, I smiled. Want me to save her? Sure, Gu Yan, jump off from here, and I'll donate. One inferno of despair. The chandelier on the ceiling was violently swaying, and charred fragments fell like black snowflakes. The thick smoke choked me, making it impossible to breathe. Every inhalation felt like swallowing blades. I had just donated bone marrow and was so weak that I couldn't even muster the strength to sit up. The door of the ward was blocked by a collapsed beam, and the only way out was the broken window. My husband, Gu Yan, was handing the only escape rope to his first love, Lin Wanwan. Lin Wanwan was just frightened. She huddled in Gu Yan's arms, crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain. "Yan, I'm scared. Don't be afraid. Wanwan, you go first." Gu Yan's voice was softer than I had ever heard before. He carefully tied the rope around her waist. I lay on the ground, reaching out weakly, calling to him, "Gu Yan, save me." He glanced back at me, his eyes devoid of any warmth. He walked over to my bedside, removed the portable ventilator that should have been mine, and handed it to Lin Wanwan. "Here, it's smoky outside." Then, he crouched down and forcefully pushed away the hand I extended toward him. I was shoved so hard that I hit the bed frame, my head banging against the cold metal, ringing loudly. His cold voice pierced my heart like an icy blade. "Shen Wei, you're a doctor. You know how to survive in thick smoke. Wanwan has just finished preparing for the transplant surgery. She can't afford any mistakes." It turns out that in front of her, even my name feels so unfamiliar. He no longer looked at me, hoisted Lin Wanwan onto his back, and climbed down the wall without hesitation. I lay on the ground, despairingly watching his figure disappear out the window. The smoke grew thicker, and flames licked in through the door crack, igniting the sheets. The scorching air seared my skin, and I could almost smell my own flesh burning. He wasn't unaware. I'd been afraid of fire since I was a child, because my parents died in a fire. I was only 8 years old when the firefighters pulled me out of the burning building, and I watched as the house where they were engulfed in flames. From that day on, I developed severe post-traumatic stress disorder. I have trouble breathing when I smell smoke, and I tremble when I see fire. I've only told Gu Yan about this. I once held his hand, trembling, and said, "Gu Yan, if there's ever a fire, you must save me first." I'm really scared. How did he respond back then? He held me, gently patting my back. "Silly girl, of course I'll save you first. You're my wife." But now, he has pushed me into my deepest fear himself. In my last moments of hazy consciousness, I seem to see the flames from that year when I was 8, and the desperate faces of my parents. So, this is what death feels like, cold, yet burning. Dr. Shen, wake up." The nurse's voice pulled me back from the endless darkness. I suddenly opened my eyes, gasping for breath, drenched in cold sweat. Bright lights, white walls, and the familiar smell of disinfectant in the air. It's not a fire scene, it's my office. I looked down at my hands, pale, strong, without a single burn mark. The calendar on the wall clearly showed the date, September 12, 2023. I am back. It was the day when Lin Wanwan was diagnosed with leukemia, and Gu Yan came to ask me to undergo a bone marrow matching test. Didn't I die? I perished in that fire, the day after my 28th birthday, apparently. Even the heavens thought my death was unjust, and granted me a second chance. The office door opened, and my best friend and colleague, Zhang Qi, walked in holding a cup of coffee. "Dr. Shen, what nightmare did you have? You turned so pale." She placed the coffee on my desk, looking at me with concern. I looked at her familiar face, my eyes welling up, almost on the verge of tears. I shook my head and forced a smile. It's nothing. Just a bit tired. Tired is normal. Zhangqi smirked. You're Mr. Gu is waiting for you downstairs again. He's driving that flashy Maybach, and anyone would think he's here to propose. I picked up the coffee, took a sip, and the bitter taste spread across my tongue. Gu Yan, just saying that name makes me feel sick. How blind was I in my past life to fall for a man like that? I set down my coffee cup and stood up. Let's go and confront him. To Rebirth, downstairs at the hospital. Du Yan's black Maybach was indeed parked in the most conspicuous spot. He leaned against the car door, dressed in an expensive handmade suit, his wrist adorned with the Patek Philippe I gave him, handsome, wealthy, and devoted. This is how Gu Yan appears to outsiders, only I know the selfish and cold heart hidden beneath this perfect exterior. As soon as he saw me come out, he immediately snuffed out the cigarette in his hand and walked quickly towards me. Wei Wei, you're finally off work, he said, instinctively reaching out to take my hand. I subtly took a step back, avoiding his touch, his hand froze in midair, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. What's wrong? It's nothing. I just finished a surgery and haven't taken off my gloves yet. I casually made up an excuse and slipped my hands into the pockets of my white coat. He didn't suspect anything, only frowned slightly, his eyes showing a familiar hesitation, as if he was about to ask for a favor. Wei Wei, I have something I want to tell you. Let's talk in the car. I opened the car door and got in. In my previous life, it was here that he told me about Lin Wanwan in a tone almost pleading. He said Lin Wanwan was his high school classmate, the unreachable white moonlight of his youth. He said they were just ordinary friends, nothing more. He said she had leukemia, which was really pitiful, and the doctor said the highest success rate for a match was among relatives. He held my hand, his eyes red, and said, Wei Wei, I know this request is too much, but her parents are old and in poor health, and I'm the only one left. Just consider it helping me, and go to the hospital for a matching test. Okay. Back then, I was moved by his deeply affectionate appearance. I thought that a man who would go to such lengths for a childhood friend must be a very emotional and kind person. I foolishly agreed to him. Ironically, it wasn't until my deathbed that I realized Lin Wanwan wasn't his high school classmate at all. She was his first love from college, with whom he had a 4-year relationship, the one he had called out to all night while holding me, drunk. The atmosphere in the car was a bit stifling. Du Yan gripped the steering wheel, hesitating several times. I was tired of his act and spoke directly. Just say it. Is it about Lin Wanwan? He was startled and looked at me in surprise. You, how did you know? I tugged at the corner of my mouth, revealing a hint of a sarcastic smile. Guess. His expression changed, as if weighing something. In the end, he sighed and confessed. Wei Wei, Wanwan has acute lymphoblastic leukemia and needs a bone marrow transplant as soon as possible. He carefully observed my expression, lowering his voice even more. The doctor said the probability of a fully matched donor with no blood relation is extremely low, practically zero. I was thinking, I wanted to ask you, to have me tested as a donor for her. I finished his sentence, my tone as calm as if we were discussing the weather. Gu Yan was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to say it so easily, without a trace of jealousy or dissatisfaction. This only made him feel uneasy. Wei Wei, don't misunderstand, there's really nothing between her and me. It's just that she's in a very dangerous situation now, and I can't just stand by and watch her die, he explained urgently. Is that so? I asked indifferently, gazing at the rapidly receding streetscape outside the window. Wasn't she your first love, the one you dated for 4 years, who dumped you to go abroad? Clang, a sharp screeching of brakes, and the Maybach jerked to a stop by the roadside. Du Yan's face instantly drained of color. The truth emerges. He stared at me intently. His eyes filled with shock and disbelief. How did you know? His voice was trembling. I had been married to Gu Yan for 3 years, and he had never mentioned Lin Wanwan to me voluntarily. I only found out about his lingering first love from a drunken confession of one of his friends. He always thought I knew nothing about it. I turned my head, met his gaze, and said word by word, Gu Yan, do you think I'm really stupid? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The carriage was deathly silent. I looked at his pale face and suddenly felt bored. Arguing with a man like that is a waste of my precious time in this new life. Enough with that look of despair. I unbuckled my seatbelt. I'll agree to the compatibility test. Gu Yan seemed not to have heard me clearly, staring at me blankly. What did you say? I said. I agreed to do the matching test. I repeated it, pushed the car door open. I'll go to the hospital tomorrow morning, now. I'm getting out of the car. It was only then that he realized and quickly grabbed my wrist. Wei Wei, don't be angry. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was just afraid you'd overthink things. Overthink? I laughed as if I had heard the biggest joke. Gu Yen, do you really think I have the mood to argue about these trivial matters of love with you now? I shook off his hand and got out of the car. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll be waiting for you at the blood draw room in the hospital. After saying that, I left without looking back. Gu Yan was left alone in the car, his expression uncertain. He probably couldn't figure out why I agreed so easily. In my previous life, when I heard him ask me to donate bone marrow to another woman, I eventually gave in out of weakness, but not before we had a huge fight. In this life, I remained calm, as if I were an outsider, because I clearly know that I am Lin Wanwan's only hope. How difficult is it to find a fully matched bone marrow donor with no blood relation in a sea of people? Easier said than done. In their previous life, they searched the entire Chinese bone marrow registry and found no other suitable candidate. That's why they pinned all their hopes on me. That's why Gu Yan chose to save her without hesitation when the fire broke out. Because there is only one Lin Wanwan. But there are many women who can be his Gu Yan's wife, this lifetime. I am determined to show him how his white moonlight will survive without my bone marrow. Returning home, I didn't turn on the lights and went straight to the study to turn on the computer. I entered an encrypted URL and accessed a private medical database overseas. As a top-tier surgeon, I have connections and authority. In my previous life, I devoted all my energy to Gu Yan and that small family, neglecting my profession and connections. This time around, I will reclaim everything that belongs to me. I entered Lin Wanwan's name and basic information into the database. Soon, a detailed gene sequence report appeared on the screen. I smiled as I reached the end of the report. As expected, it matched my memory. I shut down the computer and dialed Zhangqi's number. Chi-Chi, could you do me a favor? Go ahead, I'll go through fire and water with you. Sis, help me look into someone. Lin Dishing, around 60 years old. He did business in City A about 20 years ago, and then it seems he went abroad. Sure, piece of cake, but why are you investigating this old man? I gazed at the moonlight outside the window, my eyes cold. Once you find out, you'll know. 4. Bai Lian begs on her knees. The next morning at 9, I arrived promptly at the hospital's blood draw room. Gu Yan and Lin Wanwan were already waiting there. Lin Wanwan was wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown, her face pale and her lips devoid of color. When she saw me, she immediately put on a pitiful expression, her eyes red, as if she were about to cry at any moment. Dr. Shen, thank you for coming. She leaned weakly against Gu Yan, as if a gust of wind could knock her over. Gu Yan supported her with a look of heartache. His eyes filled with gratitude as he looked at me. Wei, thank you. I ignored them and walked straight to the nurse, extending my arm. Go ahead. The nurse skillfully drew my blood and applied a cotton swab. I stood up, ready to leave. Lin Wanwan suddenly called out to me. Dr. Shen. She bit her lip and asked cautiously, can we talk? I raised an eyebrow, but before I could speak, Gu Yan spoke first. Wanwan is weak and needs rest. We'll discuss this later. His tone carried an unmistakable note of protection. Lin Wanwan looked at him meaningly for a moment, then turned to me, her eyes pleading. Just a few minutes, okay. I looked at her, the very picture of innocence, and sneered inwardly. Is she finally unable to hold back and about to give me a taste of her power? Alright, I'm curious to see what tricks you can pull. Sure, I nodded. Let's go to the cafe downstairs. The cafe downstairs in the hospital was not crowded. Lin Wanwan and I sat facing each other. She stirred her coffee in front of her, not speaking for a long time, just shedding tears non-stop. I waited patiently, not urging her. Acting, after all, requires building up the emotions. Finally, she looked up at me, her eyes red. Dr. Shen, I know it must be very difficult for you to agree to the matching. Yan and I were really just part of the past. If it weren't for this illness, I would never have come back to disrupt your lives. She paused, her voice choking. Actually, Yan and I broke up not because I didn't love him, but because something happened at home. My father's company went bankrupt, and he owed a huge debt. I didn't want to drag him down, so I chose to go abroad alone. This explanation is exactly the same as in my previous life. Back then, I actually believed her nonsense and thought she was a kind and loyal girl. Now, it just sounds ridiculous. Oh, really? I picked up my coffee, gently blew on the steam. That's quite touching. My reaction was too flat, and Lin Wanwan was clearly caught off guard. She paused for a moment before continuing. I know you don't believe me. That's okay. I didn't come here today to explain that. I just want to beg you. As she spoke, she suddenly stood up and bowed to me. Please, you have to save me. I'm young. I don't want to die. If you're willing to donate bone marrow to me, I'll do anything you ask, anything. I set down my coffee cup, looking at her with interest. Yes, I'll do anything. She nodded vigorously. Great, I smiled, leaning back in my chair. Get down on your knees and kowtow to me 3 times. For each one, I'll consider it. Lin Wanwan's face turned pale in an instant. 5 divorce agreement. She froze in place, her body trembling slightly, staring at me in disbelief. Dr. Shen, you, what, unwilling. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you just say you'd do anything? Her lips quivered, and tears streamed down her face like broken pearls. If you can't do it, then forget it. I stood up, grabbed my bag. Guess you don't really want to live, I'll kneel. As I turned around, she suddenly shouted. Then, in the stunned silence of the cafe, she dropped to her knees before me with a loud thud. The cold marble floor echoed with a dull thump. She looked up, her face streaked with tears, her eyes filled with humiliation and resentment. Dr. Shen, I beg you. She gritted her teeth and slammed her forehead hard against the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time, she gave it her all. Soon, blood began to seep from her smooth forehead. People around us started pointing and taking photos of us. I looked down at her, my heart unmoved. What is this slight humiliation compared to what I endured in my previous life? All right, I said calmly. Get up. Lin Wanwan scrambled to her feet, wiping her tears and blood with the back of her hand in a messy manner. Now, you can consider. The result of my consideration is. I interrupted her, leaning close to her ear and whispering so only the 2 of us could hear. I won't save you. Her pupils constricted abruptly, and her body swayed, nearly falling. Why, no reason. I straightened up, adjusted my clothes. I just don't like you, that's all. After saying that, I stopped looking at her and turned to leave the cafe. Just as I reached the door, I bumped into Gu Yan, who had hurried over. His face darkened instantly when he saw the injury on Lin Wanwan's forehead. He grabbed my wrist with such force that it felt like he was about to crush my bones. Shen Wei, what did you do to her? He shouted my full name, his eyes blazing with fury. I yanked my hand away forcefully and stared coldly at him. What did I do? You can ask her yourself, can't you? Wei, Wanwan is still a patient. How could you treat her like this? He was so angry his chest was heaving. Does being a patient give her the right to do whatever she wants? I retorted. Does being a patient justify her stepping into someone else's marriage and forcing the wife to donate bone marrow to her? I didn't. Lin Wanwan cried out. Ian, don't blame Dr. Shen, it was my own clumsiness that caused me to fall. It's not her fault. The more she said this, the more Gu Yan felt heartbroken. He supported the unsteady Lin Wanwan, his gaze at me filled with disappointment and disgust. Shen Wei, I never expected you to be such a vicious woman. Vicious? I laughed. Gu Yan, you'll soon find out what true viciousness is. The matching results will be out soon, fully matched. Just as I expected, Gu Yan was overjoyed the moment he got the report. He rushed to my office and hugged me excitedly. Wei, that's great. It's a perfect match. Wanwan is saved. I pushed him away with disgust, took out a document from the drawer, and slapped it down in front of him. Want me to save her? Sure, sign this first. Gu Yan's smile froze on his face. He picked up the document, and his face turned pale the moment he read the title. It was a divorce agreement. I'm leaving with nothing, with only one request. Before Lin Wanwan's surgery, Gu Yan must publish an apology in the city's largest media outlet. In his personal capacity, admit that he had an extramarital affair with Lin Wanwan, which led to an improper relationship and caused me immense emotional harm. Shen Wei, are you crazy? Gu Yan's voice trembled as he slammed the divorce agreement on the table. Do you know what this means to me? To the Gu group? Of course I know. I calmly looked at him. I want to ruin your reputation. You. He raised his hand in anger, as if about to hit me. I didn't dodge. I just coldly stared at him. In the end, his hand still fell weakly. With red eyes and gritted teeth, he asked, why did you do this? Because I don't want to see the 2 of you, this despicable couple, anymore. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. You have 3 days to think it over. Either sign the papers, make a public apology, and I'll save Lin Wanwan, or, you can wait to collect her body. After saying that, I picked up my phone and ignored him. In the office, only Gu Yan's heavy breathing remained. I knew he would sign, for his white moonlight. He would do anything. 3 days later, Gu Yan indeed arrived. He brought the signed divorce agreement and a draft of an apology statement. I looked at the statement. Its wording was evasive, shifting all the blame onto Lin Wanwan, claiming she was deceived, while he was merely momentarily confused. I sneered and tore the draft to shreds. Gu Yan, are you playing word games with me? I pulled out another prepared statement and tossed it to him. send this exactly as it is. Not a single word can be changed. He looked at the statement I wrote, his face darker than a pot bottom. The version I wrote details how he reignited his old flame with Lin Wanwan during my supposed pregnancy, and how he betrayed me both mentally and physically. Of course, the pregnancy was fake. I just wanted to make things more explosive. Shenwei, do you really have to go this far? You were the one who acted without mercy first. So don't blame me for being ruthless. I looked at him. Remember, Lin Wanwan's time is running out. In the end, he gave in. The next day, the front pages of the city's largest financial newspapers and online media were all dominated by Gu Yan's apology statement. President Gu Yan of the Gu Group admits to marital infidelity, publicly apologizes to wife Shenwei. The news sparked widespread public outrage. Gu's group's stock price plummeted immediately. Gu Yan became the laughingstock of the entire city, forever branded with shame, and I, Shenwei, became the object of everyone's sympathy, a pitiful woman betrayed by her husband and first love. I felt no satisfaction as I watched the overwhelming torrent of abuse and sympathy online. This is just the beginning, the best is yet to come. 6 father and daughter reunited. After Gu Yan's public apology, Lin Wanwan's transplant surgery was scheduled. The day before the surgery, I checked into the hospital. Gu Yan also came. He stood at the door of my ward, looking haggard with dark circles under his eyes. In just a few days, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Wei, he began, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry, no need to apologize. I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Mr. Gu must be very busy, right? With the company's stock dropping so much, do you even have the mood to visit your ex-wife? A look of embarrassment flashed across his face. I'll handle the company's affairs. I came to tell you, thank you. What are you thanking me for? I turned my head and looked at him. For ruining your reputation, or for my mercy in agreeing to save your sweetheart. Gu Yan's fists clenched, but eventually relaxed. Wei, I know you hate me. After Wanwan's surgery is done, no matter how you want to get back at me, I'll accept it. Is that so? I smiled. Gu Yan, you seem to have misunderstood something. What? I never intended to save her. His pupils contracted sharply. I pulled out a medical record from under the pillow and tossed it to him. Take a look yourself. He trembled as he opened the medical record, and when he saw the diagnosis, he froze completely. Aplastic anemia. How could it be? Surprised, I sat up, looking at him calmly. I found out about it during my physical 2 months ago. This disease, though not fatal, strictly prohibits bone marrow donation. Otherwise, the donor could face life-threatening risks. You knew all along. His voice was filled with disbelief. Yes, I nodded. I knew all along. The reason I agreed to join you and play along with this charade was to see just how far you'd go for your so-called white moonlight, and you didn't disappoint me. Gu Yan's face turned as pale as paper in an instant. He seemed to have lost all his strength, staggering back 2 steps and leaning against the wall. You lied to me. You've been lying to me all along. Tit for tat. I shrugged. Compared to you lying to me for 3 years, this is nothing. Shenwei, he suddenly lunged at me like a raging lion, grabbing my shoulders. How could you be so heartless? Wanwan will die. She really will die. What does it have to do with me? I pushed him away forcefully. Does it matter to me whether she lives or dies? You. He raised his hand, ready to slap down. The door of the ward was suddenly pushed open. Zhang Qi rushed in with 2 security guards. Gu Yan, try touching her and see what happens. The security guards immediately pinned Gu Yan down, 1 on each side. Gu Yan was still struggling frantically, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at me. Shenwei, you poisonous bitch, I'm going to kill you. I watched him bark like a mad dog with cold indifference, finding it utterly ridiculous. Throw him out, I told the security guard. Yes, Dr. Shen. Gu Yan was forcibly dragged out of the ward, still cursing non-stop. Zhang Qi closed the door and quickly walked to my bedside, worriedly asking, Wei, are you okay? I shook my head. What could be wrong with me? This guy is completely insane. Zhang Qi was furious. But you're really something, coming up with such a move and making them run in circles. She gave me a thumbs up. By the way, the old man named Linda Shengyu asked me to look into. I've got some news. I perked up. Go on. The old man is now in Canada. A somewhat well-known Chinese-Canadian businessman. I had someone look into his background, and guess what? Zhang Qi smiled mysteriously. His only daughter went missing in City A over 20 years ago. He's been searching for her all these years but hasn't found her yet, and most importantly, Zhang Qi lowered his voice. I managed to get the old man's genetic sequence and compared it with Lin Wanwan's. What was the result? I pressed. Parent-child relationship probability, 99%. I smiled. The fish is hooked. 7 kidney trade. Lin Wanwan quickly received the news that I couldn't donate bone marrow. It said that she broke down on the spot, crying and screaming in the hospital room, almost fainting. Gu Yan stayed by her bedside, never leaving her side. As for me, I checked out of the hospital and returned to my apartment. I gave them 3 days to digest this devastating news. 3 days later, I had Zhang Qi send an anonymous email to major media outlets in City A. The content of the email was simple: a paternity test report for Linda Xing and Lin Wanwan. The email also included an emotional narrative about a wealthy businessman searching for his long-lost daughter, who is now suffering from leukemia and on the brink of death. The news once again ignited public opinion. Netizens who had previously denounced Lin Wanwan as a homewrecker quickly changed their tune. Everyone began to sympathize with the girl who had a tragic background and was battling a serious illness. The topic of #True Heiress with Leukemia hashtag quickly topped the trending list. Linda Xing, far away in Canada, naturally saw this news as well. He immediately took a private jet and rushed back to City A. In the hospital, the father and daughter staged a deeply moving reunion. Linda Xing held Lin Wanwan, tears streaming down his face. "Daughter, my good daughter, Dad has finally found you." Lin Wanwan was also sobbing uncontrollably. "Dad, I thought I would never see you again in this lifetime." Gu Yan stood to the side, watching the scene, and a gratified smile appeared on his face. He probably thought that Lin Wanzan was now saved. For a biological father, the probability of a successful bone marrow match is almost 100%. He immediately arranged for Lin Dishing to undergo the matching test. The results came back, and it turned out to be a perfect match. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Wanwan's face finally regained a bit of color. She even took the initiative to call me. Her voice on the other end of the line carried an unmistakable note of triumph. "Shen Wei, didn't see that coming, did you? Fate still favors me. I can survive without you." "Is that so?" I replied indifferently. "Then congratulations to you. Not only can I survive, but I will live better than you." She laughed. "My father said that once I'm cured, I'll marry a yen. By then, the combination of the Gu Corporation and my father's company will be unstoppable. Guess what? Do you think you'll still be able to stay in this city for the rest of your life?" A blatant threat. I chuckled softly. "Lin Wanwan, are you getting ahead of yourself?" "What do you mean? It means nothing." I hung up the phone. "Lin Wanwan, do you really think that finding your biological father means everything will be smooth sailing? You're too naive." Lin Dishing quickly arranged a pre-donation medical examination. The medical report came back, everything was normal, and bone marrow collection could be done at any time. The surgery is scheduled for a week from now. Everyone is immersed in joy and anticipation. Only I know that this surgery will never happen, because Lin Dishing will never donate. In my previous life, after my death, Zhang Qi, while running around for me, accidentally uncovered something about Lin Dishing. He is indeed Lin Wanzwan's biological father, but he is also a complete hypocrite. The reason he was so eager to acknowledge Lin Wanwan was not out of paternal love, but because he had uremia and urgently needed a kidney transplant. Lin Wanwan was the only suitable kidney donor. He wanted to trade his bone marrow for his daughter's kidney. What a fair deal. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I died. Lin Wanwan had no other choice but to accept her father's terms. She traded one kidney for her life. But this time, I'm here. How could I possibly let her get what she wants so easily? 8 life and death decision. The night before the surgery, I arranged to meet Lin Dishing at a tea house. He looked older than in the photos, but his eyes still revealed the shrewdness of his youth. He seemed a bit surprised to see me. "Dr. Shen, what can I do for you?" "Mr. Lin, long time no see." I sat down opposite him, getting straight to the point. "Let's not beat around the bush. You're looking for Lin Wanzan, aren't you? For her kidney." Lin Dishing's face changed instantly. His hand holding the teacup trembled slightly. "Dr. Shen, I don't understand what you're saying." "Don't understand?" I smiled. "Mr. Lin, you have end-stage renal disease, also known as uremia, and you need dialysis 3 times a week. I assume you haven't told your beloved daughter about this yet, have you?" His face completely darkened. "How did you find out? If you don't want others to know, don't do it yourself." I poured him a cup of tea. "You went through all this trouble to return to your homeland and claim your kinship, putting on this elaborate show of father-daughter affection. Wasn't it just to get Lin Wanwan to willingly donate her kidney to you? Do you think that by using your bone marrow to save her life, she will be eternally grateful and comply with all your demands? I'm telling you, Lin Dishing, you've miscalculated." I took out a stack of photos from my bag and threw them in front of him. The photos show Lin Wanwan's extravagant spending records and her intimate photos with different men. Your daughter is no easy one, selfish, vain, and fickle. Do you really think she would sacrifice one of her kidneys for a father who hasn't cared for her in over 20 years? Lin Dishing's face grew increasingly grim. He stared intently at the photos. His breathing becoming heavy. I continued to escalate. And I can tell you one more thing, Lin Wanwan's blood type is Rh negative, commonly known as the panda blood. People with this blood type, if they have one kidney removed, face extremely high risks during future pregnancies and childbirth. Do you think she would give up her right to be a mother for you? Lin Dishing's lips turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. I looked at him and revealed my ultimate goal. However, you don't need to be too desperate. Your condition isn't necessarily a case of needing a kidney transplant. He suddenly looked up, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. What do you mean? I'm a doctor, I calmly said, and I know some of the world's top nephrologists. There's a new type of stem cell therapy that, while it may not completely cure your condition, can free you from dialysis and allow you to live a normal life. The only catch is that it's very expensive. How much? He asked eagerly. 100 million. I said, holding up one finger. He gasped. Moreover, I added, this treatment slot is extremely rare, with only 5 available worldwide each year. I'll need to pull a lot of strings to secure one for you. Lin Dishing's face showed signs of struggle. 100 million, while not a small sum, was not entirely out of his reach. Trading 100 million for his own health in the latter half of his life and a daughter who might turn against him at any moment, he could do the math on this deal. Why should I trust you? He looked at me, his eyes full of suspicion. You have no choice. I stood up. Tomorrow is the day of the surgery, donate or not. It's your decision. If you decide to cooperate, transfer the money to this account by 9 a.m. tomorrow. I left a business card. Remember, your time is running out too. After saying that, I turned and left the tea house. I know he will make the right choice, because people like him, who are selfish, always love only themselves. 9 Suicide threat. The next day, outside the operating room, Lin Wanwan has been wheeled into the sterile room and is fully prepared for the surgery. Gu Yan stood in the corridor, anxiously waiting. Time ticked away, and the scheduled surgery time had passed, but Lin Dishing still hadn't shown up. Gu Yan's face grew increasingly grim as he kept calling Lin Dishing, but there was no answer. An ominous feeling hung over everyone. At that moment, my phone rang. It was a bank notification of incoming funds, 100 million yuan, down to the last cent. I smiled, put away my phone, and strolled slowly towards Gu Yan. Mr. Gu, don't wait anymore, I said. Mr. Lin isn't coming. Gu Yan turned sharply, glaring at me fiercely. It's you. Did you pull something? What could I possibly do? I spread my hands innocently. I just shared some truths with Mr. Lin. For instance, what kind of person his precious daughter really is. You. Gu Yan was trembling with rage. Shenwei, what exactly do you want? What do I want? I walked up to him, staring directly into his eyes. Gu Yan, I don't want anything. I just want you to watch with your own eyes how the woman you've gone to such great lengths to protect slowly marches toward her death. You madman, he roared. As if about to lunge at me, several nurses quickly restrained him. The door to the operating room opened at that moment. The attending doctor stepped out, removed his mask, and looked grave. Mr. Gu, the donor is missing. Miss Lin's condition is very bad. Her body has already developed severe rejection. If the transplant isn't performed within today, the doctor didn't finish. But everyone understood what he meant. Gu Yan's body swayed, as if all his strength had been drained. He leaned against the wall and slowly slid to the ground, his face filled with endless despair. Lin Wanwan was pushed out of the operating room and sent back to the intensive care unit. Her life has entered the countdown. I stood outside the ward, looking at her through the glass, lying in the hospital bed. She was wearing a ventilator, covered in various tubes, and the heart rate curve on the vital signs monitor was becoming increasingly flat. Once the arrogant white moonlight. Now merely a shell awaiting death. Gu Yan knelt at the door of the ward, banging his head against the wall like a madman. Wei, I beg you, please save her. He cried like a child, snot and tears streaming down his face. I was wrong. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have betrayed you. I shouldn't have treated you like that. As long as you save her, I'll do anything. I'll even die for it. I looked at his wretched state and felt no pity at all. If you had known it would come to this. Why did you start in the first place? Want me to save her? I crouched down, looked into his eyes, and smiled. Sure, Gu Yan, jump out of this window, and I'll donate. I pointed to the window at the end of the corridor. This is the 18th floor. Jumping would mean certain death. Gu Yan froze, staring at me with eyes filled with shock and fear. He probably didn't expect me to make such a request, What, scared now? I stood up, dusting off my hands. It seems your love for her is just SOSO. I turned to leave. Behind me, his trembling voice echoed, okay, I'll jump. 10 The truth is revealed. I stopped, turned around. Gu Yan had already stood up, step by step, heading towards the window. His back seemed to carry an air of resolute determination. Everyone around was stunned. A few nurses tried to stop him, but he pushed them away with a single motion. He reached the window, turned around, and looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with regret, pain, and a trace of emotion I couldn't comprehend. Wei, if my death could appease your anger and bring Wan back to life, I would be willing. He gave a bitter smile. All I ask is that in your next life, don't meet me again. After speaking, he closed his eyes and leaned back. No, a scream shattered the silence of the corridor. It was Zhangqi. She had no idea when she arrived, but seeing this scene, she turned pale with fear. She rushed over, trying to grab Gu Yan, but it was too late. I stood still, watching coldly. I thought I would see him fall, but, no, Gu Yan's body swayed outside the window, then was abruptly pulled back by a force. It was 2 men in police uniforms who grabbed him. Behind them, several serious-looking individuals followed. I recognized the one leading the group, Captain Lee from the Municipal Public Security Bureau. In my previous life, it was him who led the investigation into the fire that took my parents' lives. Captain Lee walked up to me and nodded, then he turned to Gu Yan and showed the handcuffs. Gu Yan, you are suspected of a 15-year-old arson and murder case, as well as commercial fraud. You are now officially under arrest. The cold handcuffs were fastened around Gu Yan's wrist. Gu Yan was completely stunned. He stared blankly at Captain Lee, then at me. Arson, murder, what are you talking about? I don't understand. It's okay if you don't understand. Captain Lee patted his face. You'll have plenty of time to think it over at the station. Gu Yan was taken away by the police. As he passed by me, he glared at me with a look of intense hatred and confusion. It was you did it, didn't you? I didn't answer him, because it was no longer necessary. Zhangqi ran over to me, patting her chest in fear. Oh my god, I was so scared. He really was about to jump. Wei, what's going on? What do you mean by arson and murder case? I watched Gu Yan being escorted into the elevator, and said calmly, a truth, 15 years overdue. Yes, the truth, a truth I didn't even know until my death. After my rebirth, I've been pondering a question. Why did that fire in my previous life happen so coincidentally? It just so happened to occur when I had just donated bone marrow and was at my weakest. It just so happened to block the exit of our hospital room. Everything seemed meticulously planned, so I asked Zhangqi to help me reinvestigate the case file of the fire that claimed my parents' lives 15 years ago. You never know until you look. The truth can be shocking. It turns out that fire was no accident. It was an arson. The fire started in my family's company warehouse. At the time, the warehouse was being guarded by a boy who had just turned 18. That boy was Gu Yan, 11, a new beginning. Back then, my father's company had business dealings with Gu Yan's father. Gu Yan's father's company was in serious financial trouble at the time and owed a large sum of money to my father's company. To avoid paying this debt, Gu Yan's father devised a malicious scheme. He instructed his son Gu Yan to set fire to the warehouse, destroying all the ledgers and goods, and making it look like an accident. This way, with no evidence left, the debts wouldn't need to be repaid. Gu Yan did as he was told. What he didn't expect was that my parents, who were inventorying the goods, happened to be in the warehouse that night. A fire that was supposed to destroy only goods turned into a tragedy that claimed 2 lives. Afterwards, Gu's father used his connections to suppress the matter. They bribed all the witnesses and destroyed all the evidence. In the end, the fire was classified as an accident. Gu's family, using the insurance money swindled from my parents and the debts they dodged, rose from the ashes, gradually expanding to become today's Gu Group. Gu Yan, once a poor boy, has transformed into the exalted general manager Gu. All of this was uncovered at great cost after my rebirth. I handed over all the evidence to Captain Lee. Captain Lee is an upright man, under immense pressure. He restarted the investigation into this old case. Today is the day to close the net. As for the hospital fire in my previous life, it was merely a repeat of history. Gu Yan resorted to the same trick again to ensure Lin Wanwan could smoothly obtain my bone marrow without being bothered by me afterward. He set a fire, intending for me to die in it without anyone knowing. This way, he could save his white moonlight and get rid of me. The trouble, once and for all. Unfortunately, man proposes, but God disposes. Little did he know that I would be reborn, after Gu Yan was taken away. There was no hope left for Lin Wanwan. She lasted less than 24 hours in the intensive care unit before she passed away due to multiple organ failure. She died alone, with no one by her side. Her so-called biological father, Lin Dishing, immediately flew back to Canada after receiving my money and was never seen again. A meticulously planned conspiracy ultimately ended with all the villains receiving their just desserts. Gu Yan was sentenced to death for arson, intentional homicide, commercial fraud, and multiple other charges. The Gu Group was also seized and declared bankrupt due to issues such as tax evasion, falsified accounting, and more. I stood at the witness stand in the courtroom, watching Gu Yan being escorted away by the bailiffs. He looked at me from afar. In his eyes, there was no longer any hatred, only a lifeless despair. I don't know if he regrets it, but it no longer matters. Stepping out of the courthouse, the sun was shining brightly. Zhang Qi came to pick me up in her red little sports car. Miss Shen, where should we celebrate? She was wearing sunglasses and smiling brightly. I got into the passenger seat and watched the scenery pass by outside the window. Let's go to the cemetery. I went to visit my parents. I burned a copy of the verdict at their tombstone. In the rising smoke, I could almost see their relieved smiles. Dad, Mom, I've avenged you. I leaned against the tombstone and whispered, "Your daughter will be fine from now on." A gust of wind blew, scattering the ashes and drying the tears at the corner of my eye. As I left the cemetery, I received a strange call. On the other end of the line was a warm male voice. "Hello, is this Dr. Shenwei?" "I am. My name is Lu Zhihong, and I am a lawyer. I am also one of the survivors of the fire that year." My heart skipped a beat. "I have some things about your parents that I'd like to discuss with you in person. I wonder if it's convenient for you." I gazed at the distant sky as a white dove flew by. I smiled and said, "Sure, life is always about bidding farewell to the past while embracing new beginnings. This time, I believe, it will be a beautiful start." The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. After being diagnosed with terminal cancer, I finally got the wedding I had waited 50 years for. My old partner came to me holding a microphone. Holding the hand of the white moonlight, "Shui, I will take care of myself after you're gone." After saying that, he knelt down on one knee and placed the ring on Bai Yueguang's finger in a romantic ceremony I had never experienced before. "Ningxi, after all these years of missing each other, we can finally be together." Filled with anger, I tried to push forward, but my daughter stopped me. "Mom, rest in peace. Our little family of 3 will live well. There's something I need to tell you. And I won't hide it anymore. Actually, I'm Aunt Gu's daughter. Back then, Dad felt sorry for my mom and had the fertilized egg implanted into your body. I was so angry that it caused my cancer to spread early. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the year when my daughter was 6, and my old partner had also been reborn." Song Shui, stop mopping the floor. I just saw your husband with that mistress going to pick up your daughter from kindergarten. The neighbor aunt's kind reminder brought me back to my senses from the tragic memories of my past life. I thanked her and immediately rushed to the kindergarten. As soon as I arrived at the kindergarten, I saw my daughter Shanshan sitting on Gu Ningxi's lap. I carefully hid outside the door and took out my phone to gather evidence. Shanshan, her face full of, complained to Xia Huaiji, "Dad, when can I be reunited with my real mother? That bad woman at home is always nagging me about studying. I don't want to live with her anymore." Amidst Shanshan's constant complaints, Gu Ningxi couldn't help but pout at Xia Huaiji. "Right, Huaiji, you've already used Song Shui's womb, so why haven't you divorced her yet?" Xia Huaiji's expression stiffened slightly, looking somewhat troubled. "Now is not the right time to bring up divorce. This matter requires careful consideration." Gu Ningxi punched Xia Huaiji, her face full of resentment. "Huaiji, we finally have a second chance. Don't you want to make up for the happiness we missed in our previous life?" "I never expected it." Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi, they're actually reincarnated too. After pondering for a few seconds, I took a deep breath. Even though these people make me feel sick to my stomach, but for now, I have to hold it together. Only by obtaining evidence of Xia Huaiji's infidelity and deceit can I ensure he leaves with nothing, thus securing enough money to treat my future cancer. I turned and walked away, simultaneously recalling what had happened during these days in my previous life. Upon returning home, the first thing I did, hidden cameras were installed in the corners they wouldn't notice. Quietly waited for 3 days. Xia Huaiji indeed returned with his daughter and Gu Ningxi, just as in the previous life. As soon as he saw me, he confidently informed me, "You know, Ningxi's parents have both met with misfortune, and she has nowhere to go now. I plan to bring her to our house for a while." In my previous life, when Xia Huaiji made this suggestion, I was deeply provoked. causing a huge argument with Xia Huaiji, and I even slapped Gu Ningxi in the face, telling her to get out. In the end, Xia Huaiji said I was being unreasonable and disappeared with our daughter for 3 months. Only until my death did I learn that for these 3 months, Xia Huaiji had taken them abroad to splurge. It was precisely because I strongly opposed it, therefore. Xia Huaiji never showed any signs of infidelity again, leading to my tragic end. This time, I changed my decision. I forced a smile and stepped forward to take Gu Ningxi's hand. Ningxi is your childhood sweetheart, a dear sister who grew up with you. I should treat her as my own sister too. When will your sister move in? I'll go prepare the room now. Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi both froze in surprise. Shuyi, you just agreed to that. Xia Huaiji looked at me suspiciously, as if wondering why I was different from my previous life. I nodded vigorously. Honey, aren't you always complaining that I lack tact and am not gentle and accommodating enough? I want to try to change myself and be the wife you'll love. My obedient demeanor quickly made Xia Huaiji drop his guard. He smiled and coaxed me with a few words. Shuyi, I knew I made the right choice by marrying you. Hearing Xia Huaiji say that, Gu Ningxi immediately put on a pitiful expression, pretending to be sensible just like me. Huaiji, it's really okay for me to stay at a hotel. Wouldn't it be too much trouble for you all if I moved in? Although Sister Shuyi didn't say anything, I think she must be unhappy in her heart. I won't give Gu Ningxi the chance to play the victim. Pulling her into the house in one swift motion. How could that be? Starting today, you can stay here at ease. My things are your things. Seeing me like this, Xia Huaiji became even more emboldened. That's right, Ningxi, just let Shuyi know if you need anything. In my peripheral vision, I saw Gu Ningxi glaring at me with clenched teeth and rolling her eyes. And even Shanshan stuck her tongue out at me in disgust. Sure enough, as soon as I turned around, I overheard Shanshan whispering to Gu Ningxi, that old witch is up to something again. She definitely has ulterior motives. Mom, don't worry, I will definitely protect you. I hid my cold smile and started making a big show of preparing dinner for them. My neighbor was very curious when they saw me buying so much food today. Are you having guests over today? Buying so much chicken, duck, fish, and meat. It's like you're celebrating the new year early. I shook my head and told them directly. It's because my husband brought his first love back to live at our house. From now on, I'll have to take care of one more person, so naturally, I need to buy more groceries. The neighbors who had heard of Gu Ningxi were all astonished. Your husband, flirting with that vixen all the time, but to actually bring her home, he has no shame. Sister, I truly feel for you. I lowered my face and remained silent, making everyone think I was being wronged, with my popularity among the neighbors. I know this will spread throughout the neighborhood soon. I cooked a big table of dishes in the evening, and Xia Huaiji was so pleased that he kept praising me. You're such a virtuous wife. I'm relieved to leave Ningxi in your care. In front of Xia Huaiji, Gu Ningxi could only force a smile, but at night, just as I was undressing to take a shower, Gu Ningxi suddenly burst into the bathroom. She stood at the door, screaming in horror at my postpartum belly. Sister Shuyi, it looks like your stomach is crawling with countless maggots. That's so disgusting. Xia Huaiji rushed over upon hearing this sound. Seeing me awkwardly trying to cover my body, Xia Huaiji hugged the terrified Gu Ningxi right in front of me. If it makes you feel sick, don't watch. Shanshan is nagging for you to play with her, so go ahead. He coaxed Gu Ningxi away, paused, and then turned back to comfort me. Ningxi has never had a child, so she doesn't know these things. Don't take it to heart. After saying that, he closed the door for me. I bit my lower lip, traced the stretch marks, and still couldn't stop the tears from flowing. Xia Huaiji did this to spare Gu Ningxi the various pains of childbirth, so he had their child implanted in my womb. I was pregnant for 10 months and suffered morning sickness for all of it. I experienced all the pregnancy-related issues, stretch marks, incontinence, hemorrhoids, and gynecological problems. Originally, I loved Xia Huaiji, so I also loved our child and was willing to endure these pains, but only until my death did I realize I was just a naive tool. I wiped away my tears forcefully, deliberately stayed in the bathroom for a long time, giving Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi a chance to be alone together. As soon as I stepped out of the bathroom, I went for a walk around the neighborhood. I deliberately went to the spot where the most people gathered for exercise, wiping my tears with a handkerchief. My neighbors who knew me came up to ask with concern, Shuyi, what has upset you? I sighed, tears streaming down my face. My husband brought his long-lost first love home to stay, and I don't dare disturb them at home, but my heart aches so much. Just now his first love mocked my stretch marks on my belly, comparing them to worms, spreading their dirty laundry. I dragged myself home. As soon as I stepped inside, Shanshan threw a toy at me. My bunny is dirty, go wash it for me right now. I picked up the toy with a cold stare and threw it back at her. You really like Aunt Ningxi, don't you? Let her wash for you. Shan Shan immediately jumped off the sofa, hands on her hips, yelling at me. Aunt Ningxi's hands are so fair and delicate, she absolutely can't do dirty or tiring work. You brought me into this world, so it's your duty to take care of me. I glanced at my hands, rough and cracked from years of housework, and let out a cold laugh. If you like Aunt Ningxi so much, why don't you just make her your mom? Shan Shan immediately snorted. Humph, I'd love that. Who wants you as my mom? In the standoff, Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi came out of the bedroom together. Seeing my cold expression, Xia Huaiji also gave me a stern look. Is this how you act as a mother? Ningxi is a guest. How could you possibly ask her to share the housework? Shan Shan nodded vigorously. That's right. Aunt Ningxi is nothing like you. You were born to be a servant. Gu Ningxi picked up Shan Shan, appearing flustered but actually pleased. Sister Shui, children say the darndest things. Please don't take it to heart. I'll take Shan Shan out to play now so she doesn't upset you again. She also pointed to a basin of dirty clothes. Oh, these are the underwear and panties I changed out of today. Could you please wash them for me? Sister Shui, they're all silk, so they can't go in the washing machine. They must be hand-washed. I stayed silent. Only acting after their family of 3 left. I soaked all the clothes in a basin of water and then stomped on them until they were ruined. When Gu Ningxi returned, she was indeed furious upon seeing the ruined clothes in the basin. Didn't I tell you to hand wash them? Look at how ruined these clothes are. Don't tell me you're deliberately making things difficult for me just because you're unhappy that I moved in. Maybe she knew the outcome of my previous life where I was driven to death by anger, so Gu Ningxi treated herself like the mistress, pouting and complaining about me in front of Xia Huaiji and Shan Shan. Shan Shan also glared at me fiercely, as stupid as a big sow. Xia Huaiji noticed the awkward atmosphere and started to comfort Gu Ningxi again. Pregnancy makes you dumb for 3 years. She's been like this since she had the baby. Don't get upset over such a small matter. I'll compensate you for the damaged clothes. I'll buy you a new one. Gu Ningxi blinked her eyes. I guess getting pregnant and having a baby makes you really dumb. Good thing I didn't have one. With that, she also raised an eyebrow and gave me a challenging glance. The deeper meaning behind her words was clear to see. I clenched my fists, but couldn't explode. To cover up, I bowed my head and silently sobbed, hiding my hands behind me, pretending to look wronged. This provoked another round of cold mockery from Gu Ningxi. Sister Shui, you're not exactly young anymore, and you've had a child. Pretending to be pitiful is really not a good look. It's actually kind of funny. A housewife should act like a housewife, don't you think? Shan Shan clapped along. Aunt Ningxi is absolutely right. It was Xia Huaiji who noticed I was keeping my head down and came over to me. Let's just forget about today's incident. Be more careful in the future and stop always making Ningxi angry. I already knew through the hidden camera, Gu Ningxi is deliberately bullying me. She doesn't want to wait until she's 50 to marry Xia Huaiji like in her previous life, so she and Xia Huaiji played good cop bad cop, trying to deliberately torment me and force me to initiate the divorce. As long as I initiate the divorce, Xia Huaiji can preserve most of the assets and kick me out openly. However, they don't know, so their clever plan is doomed to fail. I've gathered enough evidence. Chapter 2. That evening, I expressed my intention to apologize to Gu Ningxi and prepared a large table of dishes. However, as I carried the boiling soup out of the kitchen, a foot suddenly stuck out and tripped me hard. The moment I fell, I knew something was seriously wrong. Quick thinking. I immediately flung the soup pot out of my hands and fell backward onto the ground. Bang! Even though I managed to avoid the burn, my head still hit the ground hard. Gu Ningxi leisurely walked out with Shan Shan from the side, watching me fall flat on my back. Shan Shan burst out laughing and jumped around. Ugly woman fell flat on her face. Ha ha ha. Gu Ningxi feigned a scolding while stopping Shan Shan. You should help your mom up when she falls. How can you laugh at her, indifferently watching me? Sister Shui, how could you be so careless? Look, the soup is all spilled. What a waste. She pointed to the pot that had fallen out and the soup spilled all over the floor, urging me. Are you okay? If you're fine, hurry up and clean the floor. Your husband will be very angry if he sees this when he gets back. After all, you're just a used woman who's had a child, and no one wants you except Xia Huaiji. I suppressed the raging fury in my heart, silently enduring the pain as I got up and started cleaning. After dinner, I deliberately limped out the door. Then I went to the spot where the neighbors gathered for exercise and cried out about what Gu Ningxi had done to me. The neighbor lady took pity on me, brought me home, and comforted me with fruit. The whole family was also worried about me. With you gone for so long, Wouldn't that pair of scoundrels take the opportunity to sneak into bed? Exactly, in my opinion. Your husband brought that vixen back to do something bad. I sighed and wiped the corner of my eye. Probably not, especially since there are kids involved. After saying that, I grabbed my neighbor's hand with a worried expression. But I'm really worried too. What if you come home with me, sister, just in case they really did something dirty? I couldn't finish my sentence and broke down in tears again. The neighbor's sister and her husband were both furious and insisted on accompanying me home. If they're really that shameless, we can help you catch them in the act. I immediately bowed gratefully to the older brother and sister. Thank you, I really don't know what I would have done without you. In the meantime, they led me home with great force. At the doorstep, they reminded me to move quietly and not to scare off the snake, through remote surveillance. I know they are up to no good in the room right now. I crept in quietly and waited by the bedroom door. I took out the spare key I had prepared earlier and inserted it directly into the lock to open the door. The door swung open, a loud thud, the sound of someone falling off the bed, my neighbor, and I looked up. Gu Ningxi was hurriedly pulling the blanket to hide in the corner. I changed from my previous submissive demeanor and shouted with full force, Xia Huaiji. What were you and Gu Ningxi sneaking around doing in the room? Without giving them any time to react, I rushed to Gu Ningxi's side and slapped her left cheek with a loud smack. It's bad enough that you're staying in my house, but to seduce my husband in broad daylight, you have no shame. Shan from next door heard the commotion and rushed over. Seeing me rough up Ningxi Gu, she immediately stepped in to protect her. You can't bully Aunt Ningxi. The neighbors, brother, and sister were quite surprised. Shan, she's your mother. How could you side with an outsider like that? I smiled, then slapped Gu Ningxi across the face again. You seduced my husband, but now you want to take my daughter too. What spell did you cast on my daughter? It seems like she's ready to call you mom. Call you mom. My roar echoed through the entire floor, and I was about to snatch Shan back. Gu Ningxi was instantly stunned by my slap, covering her face in shock, unsure how to react. And Shan, furious on Gu Ningxi's behalf, actually grabbed my arm and bit me hard. How dare you hit Aunt Ningxi, you wicked woman, I'll bite you to death. I no longer held back with Shan, grabbing her and throwing her onto the bed. Shan had never seen me so violent before and was scared into wailing. Daddy, the bad woman is bullying me. Seeing this, Xia Huaiji quickly got dressed and came over to restrain my arms. Song Shui, are you out of your mind? What kind of scene are you making? I chuckled coldly. If you're ashamed, then don't do things that make you look bad. It's bad enough that you're still entangled with your first love. Now you're even letting my daughter call her mom. People might think you're the real family. Where is everyone? Since I deliberately left the door open, the drama here attracted many neighbors. They had long heard of the misdeeds of Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi, and now, caught in the act, they all stormed into my house, pointing fingers at Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi. How shameless, bringing the homewrecker straight into the house to commit adultery. This daughter is no good either, helping the mistress bully her own mother. Shan was terrified by the scene and kept hiding behind Gu Ningxi. Aunt Ningxi, I'm scared. Gu Ningxi hugged Shan, her eyes turning red, and she immediately shed tears. Sister Shui, I was just having a backache and feeling uncomfortable, so Xia Huaiji helped me massage. Xia Huaiji and I are completely innocent. You can slander me, but you can't doubt your husband. Xia Huaiji was desperately trying to smooth things over with the clothes, and he also pulled me aside to explain forcefully. I've always treated Gu Ningxi as a sister, you know that. What could we possibly do in such a short time? I knew you wouldn't just accept Ningxi moving in quietly. Are you deliberately bringing someone here to slander Ningxi? Xia Huaiji probably didn't expect such a big change in me this lifetime. He squinted, trying to gauge my reaction. To avoid arousing his suspicion, I also wiped away tears pitifully. Honey, I've never doubted you, but the rumors outside are really making me anxious. The neighbor lady couldn't stand it and stood by my side with her husband. We suggested your wife come back to catch you in the act. So what, if you're truly innocent? Why get so defensive? We've all seen the dirty deeds you and that seductress have done. After saying that, the lady turned around and started spreading the news among the neighbors. We just heard them doing something naughty outside the bedroom door. How embarrassing. When we pushed the door open, Shuyi's husband was right on top of that seductress. The neighbors are all riled up, some suggesting to beat up the mistress, others wanting to post it online, and some encouraging me to get a divorce. Xia Huaiji is feeling a bit cornered and is arguing back with the neighbors. Who do you think you are to meddle in our family affairs? Get out of here. After saying that, he glared at me viciously. Song Shui, You've really grown up, look at what you've done, don't you forget, it was you who desperately begged me to marry you. I was just being kind to take care of my childhood friend, your sister. And you, is this your way of getting back at me? How can you live with yourself acting so maliciously? As expected, Xia Huaiji turned the tables on me and blamed everything on me. Indeed, I was the one who pursued Xia Huaiji, just because Xia Huaiji has a high education, being a PhD, while I only graduated from a junior college, and come from a small town, so whenever I face Xia Huaiji, I always feel inferior. I've always been timid and only silently give to Xia Huaiji. I'll be busy taking care of him whenever he's cold or hungry. After he and Gu Ningxi accidentally parted ways and couldn't be together, it was me who stayed by his side every day to comfort him. He didn't want to take responsibility after we had a relationship while he was drunk. It was also me who lowered my self-respect and said it was okay. Eventually, Xia Huaiji finally agreed to date and marry me. I thought it was my persistent sincerity that moved him. Only before I died did I understand, when Xia Huaiji married me, he had already planned to use my womb. As long as the fertilized egg is placed in my womb, Gu Ningxi could have a child without pain. However, their exploitation of me did not end just because I had a child. They treated me like a free, unpaid nanny, raising Shanshan and providing her with a house and car. I poured all my life's efforts into my daughter, often reluctant to buy myself even a piece of fruit. In the end, this daughter of mine still had to deliberately upset me before I died. These three people literally drained me inside and out. On the day I was reborn, I decided to reclaim everything that was rightfully mine, but for now, I wasn't in a hurry to confront Xia Huaiji. I simply continued to act as if I were easily bullied, pulling Xia Huaiji, husband, since you hate me so much, let's get a divorce. The neighbors were also worried on my behalf. Your husband is the one who made the mistake. You don't need to be afraid. Xia Huaiji's eyes lit up. Shui. I didn't say we're getting a divorce, but if that's what you want, I can grant your wish. He turned back and exchanged a glance with Gu Ningxi. Gu Ningxi was so embarrassed that she wanted to hide in a hole, but when she heard me bring up the divorce, she thought her scheme had succeeded and peeked out to exchange glances with Xia Huaiji. Even Shanshan couldn't help but jump up. Divorce. I don't want this bad mom anymore. Xia Huaiji gained confidence and pointed at my nose, shouting. You'd better remember, the divorce was your idea, not mine. Yes, it was me who brought it up. I suppressed a smirk and informed Xia Huaiji, then you can just wait to sign the divorce papers. After that, I packed a few simple belongings and left the house. As for the neighbors, they were still angrily blocking the door, standing up for me against that despicable couple. Xia Huaiji thought his scheme had succeeded and engaged in a shouting match with the neighbors before driving them all away. After the incident of catching them in bed, Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi's reputation is completely ruined. I know they originally planned to drive me out, sell the house, and take Shanshan to live in a place where no one knows them, but I won't let them have their way. That night, I gathered all the evidence of Xia Huaiji's infidelity and drafted a divorce agreement with the help of a lawyer. The next day, I arranged to meet Xia Huaiji at the law firm. When Xia Huaiji arrived, he looked impatient. Why not just go and get the paperwork done? Why make it so complicated? He probably thought I was still the kind of person from my past life who would give everything just to cling to him and his daughter. But when he flipped open the divorce agreement, he was stunned on the spot. Song Shui, are you crazy? Where do you get the nerve to make me leave with nothing? I smiled faintly and had the lawyer turn on the projector screen. In an instant, the scene of Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi embracing at home flashed before Xia Huaiji's eyes. Xia Huaiji's jaw dropped in astonishment. I kindly reminded him, do you need me to refresh your memory about the schemes you and Gu Ningxi cooked up? I tapped the table, pointing to the clauses in the divorce agreement that demanded the division of all assets. If you refuse to sign the divorce agreement, we'll take it to court. At that time, I will submit all the evidence of infidelity to the court. I believe the court will make a fair judgment. Xia Huaiji snapped back to reality, glaring at me with clenched teeth. Song Shui, you actually played the fool to catch the wise and schemed against me. Why? Is it only allowed for you and Gu Ningxi to scheme against me, but not for me to scheme against you? Armed with all the evidence, I no longer feared Xia Huaiji. Now, I no longer fear leaving Xia Huaiji, even though this man is the one I pursued with all my heart, even though I devoted all my youth to him. But having died once, I now understand the importance of cutting losses in time. I calmly sit in the chair, looking completely at ease. Don't forget, I have an entire neighborhood of neighbors as my witnesses. They all support me in making you leave with nothing. By then, they'll take turns testifying in court about how badly you've treated me on a daily basis. and the judge might even make you pay me compensation for emotional distress. I may not have a high education, but I'm not stupid. In my early years, I also secretly found time to study for an adult bachelor's degree after getting married and having children. Back then, I just wanted to be more worthy of Xia Huaiji. Little did I expect that the various legal knowledge I learned in my previous life would be applied to myself in this life. Xia Huaiji, when it comes to court, not only will you lose your money, but you'll also embarrass yourself along with Gu Ningxi. Xia Huaiji didn't expect me to be so ruthless. Catching him off guard, he was stunned for a moment, then waved his fist at me threateningly. You're just a small-town girl with a junior college degree. How did you suddenly become so shrewd? Tell me honestly, did you start cheating on me with another man long ago? Did another man tell you to do this? He was red with anger, pointing like a mad dog at the lawyer I hired. Is this the man? Is he your lover? I won't let you two get away with this. The lawyer slammed the table and sternly reprimanded Xia Huaiji. Sir, please watch your language, otherwise, I will sue you for defamation. Xia Huaiji protested loudly. Sue me, I'm a doctor, I've seen a lot. And I can defend myself in court without a lawyer. He pointed at my nose, his contempt for me evident. I never expected you to be so good at stabbing people in the back, even if you can't get anywhere with your studies. I underestimated you, you little junior college girl. With your character and intelligence, you'll be stuck being someone's servant for life. No highly educated man will ever want you except me. You'd better think carefully. Without me, you'll only end up with those vocational school graduates delivering packages and takeout. Seeing Xia Huaiji's arrogant demeanor, I was completely enraged. I slammed the table and stood up. Xia Huaiji, did you stuff all your books into a dog's stomach? What else can you do besides looking down on people? What's wrong with vocational school? What's wrong with junior college? Aren't we all working diligently, doing our part to contribute to society? Contribute. As long as it's legal and morally sound, who cares if this person has never been to school? With clear logic, I left Xia Huaiji speechless. At least we're not like you. Despite having a PhD, you've forgotten all sense of propriety and shame, and you even cheated in front of a child. After shouting, I let out a cold laugh. Oh, I forgot. This child is yours and Gu Ningxi's, so of course you're not afraid of scaring the child. Originally, the divorce agreement hadn't mentioned them using my womb to have a child. Hearing me say that, Xia Huaiji, who had been about to argue, suddenly looked terrified. He couldn't think of me as someone who had also been reborn, and instead stammered in a hurry to deny. You, don't spread rumors. Okay, Shanshan was born from your womb. How could she be my daughter with Gu Ningxi? If you keep spreading rumors, Song Shui, I'll sue you for defamation. He even grabbed the lawyer. How much do you charge for a lawsuit? I want to sue this woman. She slandered me. She spread lies about me. Seeing Xia Huaiji's expression, I burst out laughing. Xia Huaiji, aren't you a doctor? Don't you know that all it takes is a paternity test to clear everything up? You're a so-called high and mighty PhD student, yet you forgot this and still try to argue. I touched my own stomach, taking the opportunity to vent all the grievances I've accumulated from my previous life to this one. Because of giving birth to that daughter, my stomach is covered in ugly stretch marks. During my pregnancy, I suffered from morning sickness and vomiting, and even after giving birth, I still had urinary incontinence. You never cared about any of that. Maybe while I was pregnant, you were busy feeling smug, holding Gu Ningxi, proud that you could trick a fool like me into having your child, right? As I spoke, my eyes welled up with tears again, but I'm still very happy. I'm grateful that fate has given me another chance to seek justice for myself in this life. Even though Shanshan isn't biologically mine, I risked my life to give birth to her and raised her myself. But she inherited your and Gu Ningxi's selfish genes, never remembering my kindness and always siding with Gu Ningxi. I have thought about it. If Shanshan had shown me a little more love and gratitude, perhaps I would have spared her feelings and not taken things to the extreme, but now I know. Whether that father and daughter live or die from now on is none of my business. Xia Huaiji finally realized after seeing me make such a well-organized accusation. Song Shui, you couldn't have been reborn like me, could you? I admitted it calmly. Xia Huaiji, you know that's good enough. In this lifetime, I will make sure you pay for the evil things you've done. I threw the divorce agreement in Xia Huaiji's face. Since you refuse to sign and still try to argue, let's see you in court. Taking advantage of Xia Huaiji's momentary hesitation, I immediately took out my phone and posted the evidence I had previously compiled and the heartfelt essay I had written online. The shocking incident of using the original wife's womb to give birth for the mistress instantly topped the trending searches. Netizens expressed, "These two are so malicious. They even came up with such a devious scheme as borrowing a womb. This kid is also a heartless ingrate, not worth pitying. Some also question the authenticity of this matter, saying it's too bizarre to be real. Fortunately, I was prepared in advance. To bring Xia Huaiji to public trial, I went live, bringing Shan Shan's hair and the hair Gu Ningxi left at my place, straight to the paternity testing center, where I paid a premium for an expedited report the moment Gu Ningxi moved in. I had already decided to get something from her for a paternity test later, in the live stream. Those supporting me and those questioning me were in a heated argument. Gu Ningxi has been staying out of sight since the incident, yet, the netizens still managed to dig up her address and information. At the moment the paternity test results came out, seeing the results confirming that Gu Ningxi and Shan Shan are indeed biological mother and daughter, I broke down in tears in front of the camera. I endured all the great damage and risks of childbirth, fought to bring the child into the world, and then raised her with great hardship. Not only did she not show gratitude towards me, but she also abused and despised me all day long, solely wanting to reunite with her birth mother. In conjunction with some videos I previously released, netizens immediately exploded. I never expected there to be such a terrifying story in the world. These heartless scumbags and their ungrateful daughter are truly ruthless. Can they be put in jail? Legal experts have also come forward to comment. Their actions of deceiving me and secretly implanting an embryo into my body without my knowledge could indeed involve breaking the law. The situation is escalating rapidly. Gu Ningxi couldn't sit still any longer. She immediately went live to kneel and apologized to me, while also stating, "I truly had no idea that Xia Huaiji stole my eggs and used your womb to have a baby. It was Xia Huaiji who was obsessed with me. After I rejected him, he resorted to such despicable means to conceive a child with me. Child, I don't know anything. I'm also a victim." Regarding Gu Ningxi's behavior of turning against for self-preservation, Xia Huaiji had grievances he couldn't express. The day of the trial, Shan Shan was even more upset, crying and demanding to find her mother. "Why doesn't Ningxi mom want me anymore? I want Ningxi mom. I want my mom." Xia Huaiji impatiently pushed her to the ground. "Don't mention that woman. Shan Shan has lost a lot of weight and her hair has turned dry and yellow." Seeing that her tantrum wasn't working, she ran toward me, crying loudly, "Mom, I'm hungry. Can you cook for me? Dad doesn't know how to take care of me, and Aunt Ningxi is gone. I want to go home with you." I pushed her away with a cold expression. "I'm not your mother. You should go find your real mother." Shan Shan had grown accustomed to my unconditional love and tolerance. Seeing that I truly would never accept her again, she sat on the ground, wailing loudly, and I, without looking back, walked into the courtroom. Xia Huaiji hired a high-priced lawyer in an attempt to save some of his assets. He fought tooth and nail in court, trying to smear my reputation at every turn. No matter how eloquent he was, it was all in vain. Faced with irrefutable evidence, he had no choice but to reluctantly accept being left with nothing. Outside the courtroom, he was immediately taken away by the police, who said they needed his cooperation in investigating the case of embryo transplantation. Due to the severe impact, not only he, but also the private hospital that performed the surgery was shut down for and under investigation. And although I was the victim, yet I bravely accepted the media interview, in front of the camera. I encouraged all the unfortunate girls and families, don't be afraid. You must first learn to protect your own rights, love yourself, and then you can achieve a happy life. After obtaining all the property, although I was reluctant to leave the kind neighbors who had been good to me, nevertheless, I quickly sold the house and other fixed assets, and prepared to start a new life in another city with the money. On the day I bought the new house, news came from my former neighbors. You know what? Xia Huaiji and that vixen had a huge fight, and in the end, she accidentally pushed your shameless ex-husband down the stairs. Xia Huaiji fell flat on his back and was instantly paralyzed. He lay in bed, not a single visitor in sight. Gu Ningxi was arrested. Shan Shan, unwanted, was sent to an orphanage. Seeing that they all got their just desserts, I calmly enrolled in a self-taught adult education course. In this life, I will devote all my time and energy to myself, living a quiet and happy life. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments below. See you in the next video.